Yeah, I think it's time to start. Let's get in there. Let's get this ball rolling.
That motherfucker being like,
I know, right? Yeah, Waluigi's Mansion win.
He's the B team Wario, right?
The B team Luigi, yeah.
Well,
Close,
yeah, like
close.
He's A team in my opinion.
Hey,
I mean, yeah, that's a real A team.
you know what else
Yeah,
is
he's
A team?
fucking
The
amazing.
start of the Hippy Dippy podcast. How's everybody doing?
Doing pretty good.
Grumble, grumble.
Grumble,
Why did I
grumble.
hear Why did I just hear double of everything?
Yeah,
sorry.
Echo too.
Yeah, you're rare, buddy.
Dylan, I'm gonna have to go cancel anybody. I'm sorry about that. Hope you can find somebody else.
Oh, 1 second. I'm not muted. Give me a second. I'm not muted whereby. I was on a different podcast. 1 second. There we go. Now it should be better. Does that sound better?
That is better.
There we go. Wonderful. Okay.
Alright.
Luxzifer, you bullied me earlier with that. I gotta be honest, you bullied me, and that was not very nice. You know
You
what it was?
actually messaged Geek.
It was 1 hour. Yeah, I did actually message Geek. It was 1 hour before Hippy Dippy, and he goes in my chat and he says, "I'm canceling. I'm sorry. I gotta go do something." And he killed me. And the reason why he killed me, Luxzifer, is that happens every single stream at least once. And I thought this would be the one. It didn't happen, and you almost tripped me out.
Aren't I a replacement already? What do you mean?
I already messaged Geek. I saw the message. It was like all the gears started turning, man. The process he started, to get that replacement. But anyway, besides Luxzifer's horrific bullying of me, he basically gave me a swirly live on stream. Besides that, I'm happy to have you all on the Hippy Dippy podcast for the show that is 100% about one issue. We've had a few of these in the past. One on Black Lives Matter, one on gun control, and this one is the third one like that, and it's all about immigration. We're going to be covering DACA. We're going to be covering what should happen to the people that are currently undocumented still in the United States. And I am excited to have this wide cast of characters to help me on that journey. So I'm going to go around. Everybody's going to introduce themselves. Nobody's going to interrupt anybody else while they're introducing themselves. We're going to go through the rules and we're going to get started. So I'm going to start this off in the top left-hand corner for me, and that is with Vadim.
Oh, hey guys, what's going on? I'm Vadim, also known as HeyItsVadim. I have a channel which is currently called Creationist Cat. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. If you don't know about it, I'd say if you ever wondered what political socio-commentary through a left-wing lens mixed with sort of like a Adult Swim type filter, that's sort of what it's like. It needs to be experienced. You should subscribe because it's fucking awesome. And I would just want to say that it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I was raised by a hippie, and she later watched a lot of Fox News and became rather dippy, although I love her dearly. So I feel a certain kinship with this podcast, and I'd just like to say hello to everyone that's watching and all of you guys who I'm going to be talking to. I'm excited about this.
Happy to have you on, Vadim, for the first time. And next is actually going to be TheTerk, who this isn't the first time I've had him on, but I always enjoy having him on and his even-handed type takes with his extremely high-tier setup and the only man I've ever have on to ever build a PS5. So that's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, so I stream science and tech here on Twitch and post videos to YouTube. I am a Republican and live here in Texas, the greatest state in the union. And, I don't usually do politics stuff, but I like to have good conversations with all sorts of people. As long as you've got the data to back up your claims, I'm cool with having a conversation.
We all love data here, don't we? We all love linking people an entire book and just telling you to find a statistic. It's wonderful. Next, I'm going to throw it over to Suspect Sushi.
Hey, it's Suspect Sushi. The least consistent panelist on Dylan Burns' fucking panels. I'm actually going to link zero citations or have any data backing up what I say. It's all going to be Fields arguments and most likely incendiary comments. So that's basically it. I also, through the grace of God, I'm here once again because remember, Dylan did launch my career. And Mr. Geck, shout out Mr. Geck. Everybody stay blessed and always say it with your chest.
Man, you got a blanket here. You ready to take a nap during the debate?
Oh, dude, I'm comfy, bro.
You're comfy?
I just woke up, but it's nice and comfy in my.
You white people comfy? You comfy?
Yeah, bro. If I had a Snuggie, I'd wear that shit right now. Yo, speaking of, there should be a fucking MAGA Snuggie. I'd wear that shit.
There probably is, yeah.
I'm looking that up.
Next is going to be Luxzifer.
Hi, I'm Luxzifer. I'm a lefty. I am Dylan's resident immigrant, so that he can feel good about having this podcast responsibly. And I'm very excited to be here. Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
No problem whatsoever. Next is going to be SummitCityAlt.
SummitCityAlt, contrary to common belief, not Seth Rogen. Variety streamer occasionally, work a full-time job, plus hang out on some panels from time to time. Just like to discuss ideas and kind of formulate my own opinion, I guess.
Wonderful. Next is going to be NoCommentChick.
Hi, I'm Irene, also known as NoCommentChick. I'm on. Is there something wrong with my audio? Sorry.
Sounds
Are you
okay
so
to me.
fine at the moment?
Okay, I'm hearing an echo, but that's okay. If nobody else is hearing the echo, then it's just my problem. But yeah, I'm NoCommentChick. I'm a Twitch streamer. I do politics. I do debate analysis. I do some video games. I do a little bit of vibes and some Squid. Yeah, we like to watch Squid and listen to Vaporwave on my stream. So just good wholesome stuff like that. And I'm also apparently a toxic debate chick or something. I don't know. It seems to be the spiciest thing about me. The thing that's most controversial right now is that I debate people like you. So thank you for helping me to get canceled. This is it's something I've always wanted, and now I'm finally here. Now I'm finally here at that moment, where cross the Rubicon, so to speak. So, but yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on, Dylan. And I do a podcast right before this one every week. So if you want to check that out, it's at 4:00 Eastern, 1:00 Pacific, and you can double dip. You can do the bird brains and the hippy dippy, just like Dylan did today, and me too.
Yeah, I stopped in for a brief moment to talk about the Bush family and a lot of other things. I will also say, Irene, your camera you seem to be getting a little bit of lag there. If there's anything you could do to address that, if not,
I'll
it's
do
perfect.
something. Yeah. I'll work on it.
Wonderful. Next is going to be Bastiat.
Hey, I'm
Right
Bastiat. I'm a neoliberal corporate shill. We have a great Twitch channel. We have a whole lot of fun there. So I look forward to tonight's debate discussion. It's a great group of people, some that I've been lucky enough to meet before and some that I haven't. So looking forward to getting to know everybody, and I think tonight will be a lot of fun. So thanks again for the invite, Dylan. I appreciate it.
No problem. And just to be sure, you're for the wall, correct?
Yeah, not exactly.
Okay. Just a fence. Next is going to be CTV, also known as the Critically Thinking Veteran.
Yeah, I am a critically thinking veteran. I served 9 years on Ohio-class submarines. I have spent 2 years of my life logged completely underwater. I am fucking crazy as fuck. You better know your shit, or I'm going to call you on it. Let's have a good debate.
Yep, that's CTV for you. Okay, we're going to get this thing started. I'm excited to have you all on. I think this will be an interesting conversation, to say the least. We're going to start this off with the first question. What are your thoughts on the DACA program? And if you want to get more specifics, Trump's targeting of it. I'll say it one more time. What are your thoughts on the DACA program? I'm going to start with Vadim in the left-hand corner.
Okay, I just need to know, is this sort of like
almost
a
forgot.
preliminary thing, or like how long do I have here?
Yeah, I almost forgot. Thank you for reminding me. Here's the rules. Everybody in intros, you get 1 minute. I always forget to say the rules. You get 1 minute for intros. You do not interrupt anybody during intros. I don't care if they just said the most outrageous thing on the planet. I don't care if they just invoked your mother's maiden name. I don't care. During that 1 minute, you do not interrupt anybody. There will be a same period during an outro. This is to make sure that everybody gets at least a minimal amount of time to talk. Next rule: try your best not to talk over other people too much. If you do, I will basically tell you to stop. If you don't respond to that, I will mute you. Besides that, you do not at other people in my chat. That can just start more heat and it'll just escalate the conversation more. You should be concentrating on the conversation in front of you, but you are allowed to respond to people in chat if you want to. Besides that, that's the majority of the rules. And I can't nothing else is really coming to mind right now. So, Vadim, you have about 1 minute.
Okay, well, I think it's pretty emblematic of Donald Trump's presidency. Incredibly misguided. It's an extension of his basically a Southern Strategy 2.0 effort to win votes, and it cuts off our nose despite, I guess brown people, because it's just a poor decision for the economy more than anything. I mean, there are moral arguments to be made that we can get into, but I will in the follow-up, talk about some numbers. I guess just the last thing that I will say is that I think that we should be begging these people to stay, not forcing them to leave, because they are, for the most part, overachievers. They contribute a great deal socially, economically, through tax dollars, and there's no great penalty we suffer for keeping them. So that's, in a nutshell, what I think of that.
Okay, next is going to be Turk.
Yeah, so, this was all because of executive orders done under the Obama administration, mainly because Congress can't do anything about it or has decided to not do it. So I think as a executive leader, he has the right to stop executive programs if he wants. And I really think it should be up to the Congress to pass laws and legislation to keep people that we would think would be good for the economy here in the country. But, we are a nation and we have compassion. I don't believe everyone should be deported because that's a pretty blanket statement. It's pretty wrong. But there is a sense of self-accountability. We need to make sure everyone's following the rules and the laws and not staying longer than they have to.
Okay, next is going to be Luxzifer.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit confused as to why this would even be like an issue to talk about, It seems like we've got these people in the country, we've expended massive amounts of resources to benefit them, right? Through education, healthcare, infrastructure, and so on. They've been socialized here, they've integrated into our society, and as soon as they have an opportunity to sort of repay that back and function within our workforce, we're going to send them to a foreign country, right? Donald Trump says he wants to run the country like a business. I can't imagine a business where you train an employee for 6 weeks and then send them off to one of your competitors. It seems like a really irresponsible thing to do. We can also go into the ethical argument, as Vadim said, there is more to it, but I'd rather focus on that because it seems really bizarre to me, and I'm not sure why anyone would reconcile those two things.
Okay, next is going to be CTV.
DACA is a program that was put into place underneath the Obama administration as an executive order, as the Turk said. The Congress's ability to not do a fucking thing to actually fix what is actually broken has what has perpetuated this expansion of the executive branch, right? So until the legislature start doing their job, you can't really expect the executive to keep trying to, toe the line or kick the can down the road. President Trump came in and started actually enforcing the law as it is written. If you want that law changed, you need to actually address Congress. So people need to get more invested in who their congressmen are so that they can be getting on them about actually working with the other side and coming to some type of actual solution. Until that happens, it's kind of all up in the air. But Obama's decision to actually put DACA on the books as an executive order gave people a whole bunch of hope. In the meantime, during his presidency, rather than forcing the legislatures to do their job.
Okay, next is going to be Suspect Sushi.
I really don't have like a super nuanced thing about this. I don't like chain migration where you bring one in and you can't deport them, so you bring another in because it's like I don't like that kind of stuff. I'll get more into it before. I don't have a good opening statement, so grumble. Conservative talking point, grumble something incendiary, and then end it with a compliment to Dylan's hair like I usually do in my opening statement on his panel. There you go.
Wow, that's probably the best opening Suspect Sushi has ever had. Next, we're going to go to SummitCityAlt.
Yeah, so, following that, from what I know, Trump's attacking of DACA, as you've put it, I see it as more of a way to get Congress to do something more with the Dreamers Act, Dream Act, I forget what they actually call it. DACA has actually been ruled to be unconstitutional, but they're letting it stand while they further litigation, kick that ball down the road. I don't have any kind of answers on what we should do instead. It's a tricky situation. I know that, there's an embassy in a lot of countries and there's a process. At the same time, there's amnesty. I mean, there's so many ways to, come here and do I don't want to say the right thing, but do the thing you're supposed to do, I guess. It's kind of where I'm at on it. I understand it. I don't think that it's worth, hanging Trump in the public square over, especially because he's not the only one that had any kind of dog in the fight on the matter. So the fact that Congress isn't able to do their jobs and make any kind of movements on it, I don't know that the blame solely rests on his shoulders.
Okay, next is going to be NoCommentChick.
Yeah. I think SummitCityAlt, you meant to also say in a video game. When you talk about like the public square thing, like you meant in a video game. But just to clarify that, yeah. So like as far as there's definitely an ethical argument to be made. That's the one that holds the most water for me. But that might not resonate with the rest of y'all. So I'm gonna instead come at it from kind of your own self-interest point of view, the economic interests of the country, the fact that immigrants are actually good for the economy, and they are also filling kind of a hole in our social security program in terms of these are where the younger demographics are that are paying for the rest of our because boomer, right, retirement. No, I'm not anywhere close to retirement, but yeah, it's immigrants are actually doing a lot for this country that they don't get thanked for, and instead they get shit on, and stuff like keeping their families together is actively resented by people. So yeah, no, I'm
Okay, next is going to go to Bastiat.
Hey, thanks for that, Dylan. So ultimately, I don't know what the argument is that DACA is unconstitutional. It was an absolutely constitutional exercise of the president's discretionary authority to decide how the federal government of the United States prosecutes immigration cases. President Obama decided to focus not on these folks who are in every respect except legally Americans, but instead to focus on violent criminals, human traffickers, and the like. He exercises prosecutorial discretion there. And that's absolutely doable. By contrast, President Trump, in characteristic fashion, implemented a policy change that was probably legal, the end of DACA, but he did it in an illegal way by avoiding, or rather by refusing to follow proper procedure, which is why the Supreme Court smacked him down for it. So not just malice, not just an attempt to hurt these people, but in an incompetent fashion. And these people shouldn't be chips. They shouldn't be bargaining chips for the sake of trying to cajole Congress one way or another. These are Americans, again, in all but legal status.
I'm on a
most
debate,
important
my
thing
man.
there is. So it's yeah, they're Americans in all but legal status, and therefore they ought to be treated as such and protected as such. And ultimately, the fact that the law is the law doesn't make the law any more just. The law that would have these people sent back to their countries of origin is unjust and should be, we shouldn't treat them like they're doing the wrong thing for wanting a way around that unjust law.
Okay, we have finished opening statements. I will just remind everybody to try to be as productive as possible. A little spice is okay, but too much, is not fun. Nobody enjoys too much spice. So, I'm going to open it up. If anybody said anything you disagree with, you may engage with them freely. Try your best not to talk over other people too much.
All right, since I didn't say an introduction, and I'm obviously going to have the least intelligent but most spicy take, let me just say this now. All right, so like with the creation of a DACA recipient is like, what people like to say undocumented citizens or whatever, but it's an illegal alien coming into the country and then having a child on U.S. soil, right? And then that's a DACA recipient. Is that correct?
No,
not necessarily,
okay.
But yeah.
Okay, it's like, so where's the nuance that I'm missing there?
They're children who are brought here, but they are not born here.
Oh, okay. So they don't have to be born here.
If they were born here, they'd be citizens.
Okay, see, then I don't understand. Like, if they were born in another country, then they should be citizens of that country. I don't understand how they're Americans in any capacity.
Yeah, see, they're Americans because they've spent their life just like you, growing up here to become Americans.
No, but
as you've demonstrated already, you don't really take that particularly seriously.
No, I was born on U.S. soil.
These people, on the other hand, they don't benefit from the fact that they were born here and therefore get that automatic citizenship.
I don't think they should be benefit. I don't think they should be
beneficiaries. This is the only country they've ever known, and therefore ought to have citizenship, same as you get it.
How does ought to have stand up?
Okay, that's a lot. So who wants to speak next?
I'd like to jump in real quick.
Vadim can go first. That's fine. Sure.
Just suspect Sushi. I think you should know that the average age is 6 years old, although very often it's just toddlers. So a lot of these people have some of them don't literally know any language but English. That starts to get into sort of the moral argument. Like they literally have no other place to go.
I think their parents would go too.
What's that? Well, okay. Well, we can get into that. I wanted to throw that out there because maybe I thought some people should know that. I'd like to address. I mean, I have some stats that I want to say, but I'll say them later. I want to address critically thinking veteran.
CTV works, bro.
CTV.
Okay.
First of all, there were a couple of things that you said. A lot of people don't realize that there was actually a great deal of bipartisan support for the DREAM Act until about like the Trump era. It really, in 2014, there started being like some problems because of the fact that Obama tried to expand it he did expand it to parents of DACA recipients. And that's when, that's when 26 states, I believe, successfully sued him, or not him, but the, you know what, Bastiat can probably give the, I think he probably knows better than I do. I'm just kind of
you
like.
Do you understand that you said a precedent of undermining the law by actually signing into?
Can I just
wait. Okay. What at the time? I'm hearing some echo from somebody.
Yeah, Creationist cat, you got some echo.
I do? Hello? Yeah. Hello? Are we good now?
If someone is talking at the same time, basically we can hear them in your mic. So if you can do something for that.
I can turn
headphones.
down
Headphones would also work, I think.
My headphone jack is a little messed up right now. I apologize for that. But is it sounding better?
It does sound okay at the moment.
Okay. So that's important to maybe Bastiat can elaborate on that in a second. Also, I believe it was TheTerk, although I may be wrong. I think he said something to the effect that Obama. I mean, yes, of course, Obama really did amp up the deportations. Although it was Trump who implemented a zero tolerance policy, really amped things up. There's a lot of ways in which the program was run differently under Trump. There's this like BS notion that they're one and the same, and in the way that they did things. And the last thing that I want to say is to SummitCityAlt. Oh no, I already explained that about the 2014 it becoming unconstitutional. So I do want to just say that before we move on, I have some facts that I want to throw out there, but I'm going to throw this out to other people to respond now.
So can I make a statement real quick? Can we all agree that the parents that brought these children over are in violation of U.S. code? I think it's 8/13/25.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So they are.
Yeah. I can agree with that, but at the same time,
Okay,
marijuana is illegal.
That has no moral aspersions, no aspersions of right or wrong. The fact that something is or is not law does not make it right or wrong.
Okay, well let's all stop for a second and let Turk finish.
Yeah, let's not put words in my mouth. I said the parents, they chose to come over and they chose to not follow proper entry protocols, so they have violated the U.S. code. Correct?
Correct.
Is he muted?
I think Bastiat's
muted. I think Bastiat's muted.
Did Dylan mute him?
Yeah.
There he is.
No, we can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. What do you mean by proper?
Proper,
like
going
actual
through
law.
going through a legal port of entry, talking to immigration enforcement, doing all that process, and going in the right way.
The onerous and arbitrary and oppressive strictures of U.S. immigration law. Correct. Yeah, they violated those.
Okay, so we can agree that the parents did something wrong.
No, I can agree that they did something illegal. I did not agree that they did anything wrong.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's just clarify the distinction here, because it seems like we're getting confused on whether or not we're making a descriptive claim or a prescriptive claim. We're all trying to say that this shouldn't be illegal because it's not wrong. Whether
but
or not
it's currently illegal and you're violating the law.
Yeah, and I agree that that's the description that's accurate.
So we
right?
should
We've all agreed to
people
this.
who are currently breaking the law, right?
No, well, that's the problem. No, that's the prescriptive claim that we disagree with. That's why I'm trying to create the distinction here.
Okay. Because the law is unjust in your eyes, that means they shouldn't adhere to
Sushi. Absolutely. That is exactly what we're saying. Just like, for example, the Fugitive Slave Act that required the federal government and the state to cooperate in returning slaveholders or slaves who escaped from slaveholders to their slaveholders. Yeah, we agree that you shouldn't follow some law.
Are you conflating people who are breaking like border laws to slavery?
Creating an analogy.
Yeah, I am in fact saying that when the federal government of the United States tears productive people out of their homes and away from their families, it's engaging in an activity that, while not as terrifying as say the return of a slave is indeed a moral wrong.
But now you're going on where the topic's going. The executive, Barack Obama, went around Congress to pass this executive order, and that is, the topic of debate. If we want to legally change the laws, we need to do that.
Yeah. So how did he violate the law? How did he go around Congress?
The Administrative Procedure Act, to be exact.
Because in the Constitution, right, it spells out that the federal government is responsible for all things related to naturalization in Section 1, Article 8, I believe. And then in the 14th Amendment is where it goes on to say that any people that are born or naturalized as to citizenship. So this power solely rests with the federal government, right? You can't have the executive, who's supposed to be in charge of the execution of the laws, bypass the legislatures, which are the ones that should be passing the laws, right? And then think there's not going to be some type of problem down the road. Barack Obama overstepped his constitutional authority in order to create this program, which perpetuated the problem that we were already having.
No, you said it right there. You said that the executive has jurisdiction over.
No, I didn't.
Enforcement of those laws.
The executive cannot have law.
Which means they can determine
the
how
the federal government, which all has to do with the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. All three of those branches represent the federal government in the United States.
Yes.
So the legislatures write the law, the executive executes the law.
Right.
So if you want the law changed, you need to have Congress do their job. And until Congress starts doing their job, all this is for nothing.
Yeah, the president has discretion, though, in how that law is enforced, because the president ultimately governs the prosecutorial agencies that enforce that law. Those courts were created by Congress. That was not a creation of new law. It was not a creation of new law. It was the direction that the federal government's policy, its priority, will be not on these children, not on their parents, but on other groups of people. The federal government only has so many resources, and it decided to focus its resources elsewhere.
Dude, it's pretty simple. Sorry, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so you're in favor of the executive branch. If they don't like a previous law that has been executed, they can just say, I'm not going to do that and enforce or not enforce that law.
I am saying that they have some discretion in how they enforce the law, and here they exercised it. Now, by your logic, you're saying that they would presumably have no discretion, which would mean, for example, that a prosecutor could never choose to drop a case based on their interpretation of the facts of that case. I mean, that can't be the case. It can't be the case, for example, the prosecutors must always prosecute in every situation, anytime. No, they have to have some discretion. Here, the president instructed them to exercise their discretion in a certain way.
And it's a global... Go ahead.
No, I just find like it's very interesting that you're trying to establish precedent, especially as a lawyer. Like, oh no, I don't even want to look at that fucking law to uphold. I'm only going to focus on these ones. But like, all I'm saying is this: open borders undermine the rule of law in a respective country when you don't fucking like actually protect your borders. And like setting the precedent, just be like, oh well, I feel like this fucking law is arbitrary. I'm not going to like agree to that one too. And then eventually you just fucking corrode your own society. It's stupid. Like if you have a fucking issue with it, like, pass it in a law where you would protect these people, but until then, they are liable to be fucking deported, and I have zero issue with this.
Which is exactly what DACA was.
You have to demonstrate how it is, quote, corrosive to society. But now,
okay, that's pretty easy.
No. I would like to go on though. I mean, I
thought you were asking me.
I think there's something missing out of this.
I mean, we're going to get to questions that directly speak to that. So I say we wait until then for you to say that. But I would like to throw out some numbers right now, because I think we all agree that there are such things as unjust laws. There are such things as stupid laws. And I'd like to give some numbers as to why this like outlawing DACA would just be straight up stupid. Can I do that?
I want to actually tell you what DACA is so that everybody's on the same page.
May I give these numbers?
Let's let him. CTV. Right after, I'll let you speak. But he was speaking first.
If he's citing a source, can you post it into the Discord chat?
I'm sure he would be able to. Yeah.
Well, I can get the source in a second, but I'd like to.
Yeah, please do.
Sure. So those enrolled or eligible for DACA contribute over $1.7 billion in state and local taxes. Their effective tax rate is higher than the top 1% of taxpayers in state and local taxes. Continuing the program and enrolling all those eligible would ensure that we continue an increase of $815 million on average dollars per state, bringing the total contribution to about $2.5 billion yearly. So repealing it would reduce state and local revenues by and reduce total contributions greatly. I'm sorry, I may have
messed that up slightly. This is the last thing I'm going to say. They receive practically no federal benefits at the current time, which means that they are less of a tax burden individually than average citizens, although I do think that they should receive more benefits. That's another topic. So that all cumulatively, they contribute a great deal in tax dollars, and they are not a tax burden.
You're right, dude.
It certainly sounds like you're advocating for
it doesn't matter if I break the law.
The final point is that we are depriving ourselves of billions in tax dollars as a result of their existence.
Okay. I can break the law as long as I pay property taxes. I'm good.
Suspect. Okay, it's CTV.
They do pay taxes.
Jesus Christ.
It's amazing to me that we're going
to deferred action for childhood arrivals, or DACA, allows people who were children of illegal aliens at the time they entered the United States to be eligible for work permits and to have deportation proceedings against them deferred. Now, the problem with having the executive take this action is that it's not actual law. If you want the law changed, you have to go talk to Congress. That's the way the Constitution is written. You can have all the sympathetic arguments you want for all of it, but at the end of the day, the law is that these people broke it, and they are therefore criminals.
Who broke it?
Right?
As part of prosecutorial
because
discretion,
they broke the law.
As part of prosecutorial discretion, prosecutors and, of course, the administrators, like the President of the United States, who govern how the prosecution of our laws works, can set conditions under which they may decide not to prosecute. You can call that a pseudo-amnesty, but it's clearly not, given that the Supreme Court just said, for example, that if President Trump had followed proper administrative procedure, like President Obama did, then he would have been able to end DACA completely. But he didn't follow proper administrative procedure. That's the only reason DACA is still on.
You're talking about Trump, though, dude. I'm talking about actual law.
Yeah, I'm talking about actual law too. The law, an executive order is nothing.
So the executive can only kick the can down the road. They can't make actual law.
It's not helpful if we both talk over each other. So one at a time.
You can say they're kicking the can down the road. You can say they're kicking the can down the road. That may be the case. But that doesn't mean that the president doesn't have prosecutorial discretion and can't set conditions under which
prosecutorial discretion is not the ability to write the law.
It's not a writing of the law. It's a saying.
That's exactly the point. We agree.
No, we don't agree.
We do agree. You're not listening.
I think that's saying whether you will prosecute or whether you will not prosecute. Again, the federal government only has so many resources.
The fact that they have any type of prosecutorial discretion means
Okay, one at a
time. There are
millions
of illegal immigrants in this country. They only have so many resources, and the president of the United States decided these are the ones that we are focused on, and these are the ones we are not focused on.
I just want to say real quick that I put the link in the chat. It's from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, okay?
Yo, Summit was trying to say something, bro.
Summit, you were trying to say something, but CTV, I'll give you one last time to respond, and we'll throw it over to Summit.
Bastiat understands that the federal needs that the Congress needs to do their job.
Summit? I agree, that would be ideal.
So you can say that Trump is blocked. That's fine. That's why we have a Supreme Court to step in and do those things. I'll say sure, that's cool, but at the same time, he is right that Congress does need to pull their head out of their ass and actually do their jobs. This inability to get shit done because of bipartisanship isn't what the American people want, and it's not doing any justice for the people that are crossing the border. Especially when we're talking about how much they contribute to our society financially, which shouldn't be even a part of the discussion. I mean, you're talking about 6,200 people in 2019 that are children accompanied by fraudulent family members is how DHS, I guess, or whoever the fuck I'm looking at right now calls it. Human trafficking is a real thing. And if we can do anything to stop that, it shouldn't be blinded by a dollar amount.
Wait, so no concerns for the deficit or anything? I mean, you're literally talking about blowing a hole in the.
You're literally talking about fucking slavery and sex slavery for children.
So, this is what you already do as conservatives. Whenever we have any left-wing priorities that we want to pass, you're like, yeah, how are you going to pay for that? How are you going to pay for that? What are you going to do? Is that a tax raise? Is that if it's a tax raise, it's too much. How are you going to pay for it? You're talking about blowing a hole in the federal
I'd rather
How are you
take
gonna
the
pay for it?
financial hit to my wallet than like let the fucking
to your
foundations
wallet?
and
So
laws
what are
that
you gonna
support
do?
our
What are you-
country be
I
corroded
would
over
rather,
time.
yeah, I'd
Taxes
rather
you're
care
gonna
about the
raise.
children being exploited than I would a
Yeah,
fucking
so
dollar
I'm with you
amount.
on the
Okay,
children. I'm with
okay,
you 100%
I'm
of the
curious.
children. I think that's a really important point. We should try to protect those children. Giving them protections under the law by making them citizens is probably a good idea, right? Like, I think that's a pretty good way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to Suspect Sushi's point he keeps making about degrading respect for the law, the government doesn't have to foster respect for law. Most people respect the law naturally when the law is aligned. When the law is aligned with principles of justice and decency. And the fact that there are 11 to 16 million people in this country, here in the greatest country in the world, by the way, if you forgot, Sushi, the fact that people made that decision to risk so much to come here suggests that they are the ones on the right side of justice, and that the reason there's an increasing disrespect for the law by people, in the sense of people coming here illegally, is because we've made it too hard for them to get here, to get into the best country on earth.
It wouldn't go through an embassy be safer, Bastiat?
I got a question. I'm talking. Okay, Suspect, I have a question for you. You earlier said that this would erode the foundations of society. What do you mean by that? Why would this
basically, like the way I look at it is this: when you bring children across the border and like they're not like actual citizens who are bought on U.S. soil and things of that nature, and you bring like their parents in and they're like, oh, we can't fucking deport this kid because no one will be able to support him, blah 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 blah, and then they can bring more people in and more people in, like chain migration, things of that nature. I think it incentivizes cultural enclaves, which are like culturally opposed to American culture as a whole. And also there's things like the bilingual rate with illegal immigrants is like extremely low, so they can't even fully engage within our economy or in our society as a whole. So I think over time it really does corrode the natural the natural culture of America personally.
Yeah, what is American culture?
We actually
I'm
have.
really curious. If you could define that in some fashion.
Bastiat, chill out, dude. Right? Take a chill pill, Xanax, something. But so Sushi, to your point though, we actually have instances in history where that happened with underneath the Romans, right? When all the Germanic tribes started actually infiltrating the Roman Empire, that actually was one of the things that led to the fall of the Roman Empire. So it isn't like we don't have,
That's not a comparable example at all. That was literally a military force invading a country. That's like saying that immigration is comparable to the German army marching into Poland.
I'd like to ask everyone on the panel who is to the right, if you think that because Trump has passed a lot of executive orders on immigration and refugees himself, do you have a problem with those by virtue of the fact that they were executive orders?
I would have to know which one specifically you're talking about in order to
formulate. Okay. So
no, not okay. We had a specific list of questions and topics that we're talking about. That's the whole reason why people go and do their homework ahead of time.
All right, so
you want to take the conversation in left field, then by God, we need to just go and break out the football bat then, right?
You were making an argument that it is unconstitutional by or just wrong by the fact that it was done through executive order and not through the Congress. When Trump has done the exact same thing. So you're saying that it's really just this particular thing that you have a problem with, not the fact that it was done through executive order so much.
We're sitting here talking about DACA, and the conversation needs to be stayed inside that framework because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, but these things affect
not yet. But
he's issued. He could issue an executive order on DACA, and that would be what you'd be fine with that.
Have to go back to the courts. Right, and when it comes back to the courts, they're going to have to vote on a thing called nullification. And the last two times that the Supreme Court voted on this, they actually agreed and then got rid of it. So this is a problem that's going to end up in the courts because the legislatures are not doing their job.
I mean,
our system's actually working as well as it can be, considering Congress isn't doing their job, with the executive trying to at least do something, and then the Supreme Court's going to end up ruling on it, and we'll find out how they rule, right? But until then, what could actually happen in order to help all of these people that have been here and contributing to society is to call your congressman and tell them to do their fucking job.
So what are people's feelings as far as why Congress has this inability to act? What's so toxic about whatever compromise would have to go through?
Bipartisanship.
Orange man.
So what is that? Let's unpack that a little bit. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Bastiat, really? You don't think bipartisanship
No, I don't. I think it's because for a lot of people, follow the law is code for I don't want them here. I think if people really wanted them here, then I don't think there'd be any problem figuring out a way to make it happen. But there have to be a lot of people
inherently
who just
racist
don't want
to think
them
that the only illegal immigrants in America are brown in the first place.
Suspect Sushi, after you, first of all, you're taking a racial direction. You can absolutely take that into an economic direction. Second of all, you're the one that brought up American culture. If you could define that, by the way, I'd like to hear that. I'd like to hear what your definition of American culture is.
Individual liberty of the sovereign citizen, small government.
Stop. Bastiat. You gotta let him answer when you ask him a question, though. You gotta let him, because I didn't hear.
Our Constitution and Bill of Rights are the framing points of an American culture. Like, not only that, dude. Like, the fact that we're one of the most contributory nations on the planet when it comes to trying to support infrastructures of impoverished countries and things of that nature. I think American culture is the best culture on the planet, bar none.
What part of that is cultural?
All right.
I said these things created our culture. Our Constitution and Bill of Rights actually are the framing points of American culture.
I agree. Our Constitution, Bill of Rights, built by immigrants to this great continent, great country. Our Declaration of Independence, which says we hold these truths to be self-evident. They're all men are created equal. Endowed, they're created with certain unalienable rights. This is a description of the state of all mankind. This isn't some statement that these rights only apply to people who happen to be lucky enough to be born here. If you're going to talk about individual freedom as a defining element in our country, then the freedom to come and go as you please ought to be a part of that.
They would never have freedom in the United States of America if they didn't have any respect for borders in the first place. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right, Bastiat, are you advocating for complete imperialism and us taking over the world, bro?
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't be against that.
That's what I want to know.
Just to be clear, if you mean, am I advocating for everybody in the world to be able to come here? Yes. If I'm advocating that the values of the United States are the best in the world, yes.
So we should own the world. Like, I agree, Bastiat. Let's do that.
I don't think we should do that by force, but absolutely, if people want to come to the United States, I think they ought to be free to do so.
No, I don't think they should come anywhere. I think we should just control every other country.
And I do think that those rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are absolutely universal.
Can I take a moderate stance? That feels really weird to hear this. I think they should come legally, and we should increase and fix the immigration process so that more people can be here.
True.
Absolutely.
What needs fixed about it, the Turk?
What needs fixed? We need more law enforcement agents. We need to have better tracking of overstayed visas. We need to have a better handle of the immigrants and what they're doing. And we need to follow up. We can't just like let them in and then just be hands off. You know, we need to make sure everyone's abiding by the law. We are a nation of laws. That's why Congress is always in session passing stuff.
I agree.
Bastiat, I have no problem with having more immigrants coming to this nation. Sure. They just need to follow the rules, man.
So when you say like we need people here like watching over them, like why is it that we need people?
I need to stop. Keep your point, but I got to use the bathroom, and I think this is a horrible decision on my part. Geek, please take the reins if need be.
Geek's good at it. When you say we need people here watching them to make sure they're following the law, like why do we need them watching them once they're here, making sure they follow the law? Like, do we not need that for ordinary Americans? Is there something about them that's different?
Let's be clear. They're not actually citizens at this point, are they?
Yeah, well, what difference does that make in terms of whether they're following the law or not?
So can I directly answer the question?
Are citizens likelier to follow the law? All the research that we typically look at on this suggests that native-born Americans are likelier to commit crime than immigrants, both illegal or legal. So,
go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so to directly answer your question, we need a immigration force, i.e. ICE, to be able to go and enforce the laws. And instead of having municipalities and states saying, ICE, I don't want you acting in my, our sheriffs are not going to respond with you. We need to be able to, as a nation, be able to enforce our immigration policy. We can't have selective units deciding which laws they choose to uphold.
Yeah, but I mean, which laws though? Like the laws that say that these people need to be sent back, for example?
Yeah.
Like why?
The laws.
If that law is unjust, why should it be enforced?
Because it is a law in the books, and if we as U.S. citizens want to change that law, we should change that law. Like Veteran said, call your congressman, say, I don't like this specific law. It needs to be brought up in session. If not, you're getting voted out, my friend.
So so you're saying that an unjust law should still be enforced?
it needs to be taken care of legally. We can't just say, no, we're not going to enforce this law because I don't like it or because I don't agree with the current political climate. That's toxic. That's why we're at the place we're at right now.
Do you think it's possible for the Congress to pass a law that is so unjust that good citizens would refuse to enforce it?
I think so. If we were to start passing single issue laws instead of an entire immigration reform bill that's never going to pass, we might be able to make our way to that point.
At the same time, though, if we have unjust laws and we
wait, why are they unjust? I'm tired of people saying unjust.
Let the man finish, man.
I'm kind of done with that too myself.
Hello. Let me. I didn't even finish the sentence. If we have unjust laws, there is a chance that, in this case, we're doing exactly that. We're funneling billions of dollars into unjust practices. So we can kind of, recalibrate our priorities and spend that money on other things and not worry about in the meantime. Hopefully, we can change the laws. But that doesn't mean that we have to spend all of the money and the workforce and all this shit on stuff that ultimately is antithetical to growing the economy.
So I saw your link you posted. Thank you for posting it, by the way. They said like 1.3 billion, plus or minus whatever 1/10%. The GDP for the U.S. is in the trillions. So even though the billion is a large number for local and state tax incentives or income, it's a drop in the bucket when compared to the rest of the nation.
Yeah, so is the population of DACA recipients.
We're talking about the cost. There's also a cost of removing them, which is very high. But we're talking about the cost that they have against just the growth of America versus I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tripped up here because I need a little more coffee. But do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying
I get what you're saying, but the statistics don't
that it
support
is obviously a net benefit. I'm not saying that it contributes trillions to the economy, but it's like the cost of not having them here is far higher than having them here. Like we get lots of benefits from having them, and there are other benefits as well. I mean, these people, by the way, they have to meet very strict standards. Most of them are college graduates. I have more stats that I can give. A lot of them own businesses. A lot of them create jobs. In general, this is probably going to be shocking to a lot of people, but in general, not just DACA recipients, but every illegal citizen creates 1.2 jobs. So, I mean, just basically having them is a net positive to America. And it's just like we're shooting ourselves in the foot by saying, get the fuck out of here because we have these laws on the books.
All right, I have a question. I have two things. One, once again, it's interesting that you use a vocabulary that subtly tries to make your standpoint seem better than another, right? When you say unjust laws, just like for instance, like in the other panel we were doing a while ago, where you kept saying, not you, but like where the left is saying indoctrination when it came to like military recruiting on Twitch and things like this. You're using doublespeak intentionally, right? It's not an unjust law. It's a law you don't agree with.
It's not.
I'll respond to that.
Unintentional. I like I said before, there is definitely a moral argument to be made to keep these
What's
people.
the moral argument? What about America supporting the infrastructure of these countries instead, and like actually helping them out so they're rich in their nation?
Sushi, what about if you're going to talk about the report? If you're going to talk about the reporting,
I can answer that. He asked me a question.
But I'm talking. Okay. Let me make very clear going forward to everybody on the panel. If I open my mouth and start to speak, everybody shuts down because I'm doing it simply to moderate, not to like. Here's my point on immigration. I'm going to throw this over to Bastiat because it looked like he wanted to answer Suspect Sushi's question. Vadim, I'll see if I can get it back to you if the flow starts slowing down.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Okay, so Sushi's point is basically, how can you say these laws are unjust? Look, I can say these laws are unjust for the same reasons that I could say that a law like slavery or a law like Jim Crow is unjust. You're right, they're not the same thing. You're right, they're not the same thing. But they are analogous in some ways, in the sense they are egregious violations of the individual liberty that the United States of America first and foremost should protect.
The individual liberty of an American
Let him
citizen.
finish.
No,
Let him
no, no,
finish,
Our
please,
Constitution
Sushi.
doesn't just apply to citizens. It applies
does,
to
though.
people in the United States of America, for one.
No,
For two, let's forget. Suppose you don't care about the freedom of those individuals. That's fine. You have no right to get in the way of my freedom to hire those individuals, to rent to those individuals, to allow those individuals to contribute to my
God.
enterprise. All right?
Actually-
So beyond that, you're violating my individual freedom. And then you propose to tax me to pay for your immigration police. It's ridiculous. It's an absolute violation of my freedom in exchange for nothing, in exchange for a poorer country.
Wait. So if there is something illegal to hiring someone who's not a citizen, right?
And that law is unjust.
But like, you understand, like, one of the largest reasons why illegal citizens why you shouldn't have illegal citizens in your country is because they're more easily taken advantage of when it comes like things like that, because they can be threatened with deportation. Maybe if we had a more refined immigration system and we didn't incentivize illegal immigration by saying, "Oh yeah, just fucking bring your kid over here, we won't deport you," is bullshit. Like,
Yeah,
you're
right. It is bullshit. The best thing to do would be to legalize them all immediately.
No.
That doesn't mean
That's one of the biggest failings of Reagan, was giving amnesty to a bunch of illegals in the first fucking
actually one
place.
of the greatest things that Ronald Reagan did for all the lefties.
No.
Suspect Sushi. On Reagan's grave, Ronald Reagan legalized
blanket amnesty fucked us. Blanket amnesty fucked us.
People. It didn't fuck us. It made our country richer in the midst of a recession.
No, it literally fucked us.
Suspect. I have a question for you. Do you think that those who hire illegal immigrants should
be penalized? Yes.
Okay, so then Donald Trump has a wide history, like an illustrious
If he had
history.
knowledge of illegal immigrants being hired, then he should be penalized.
He knew. They're like he's fucked over. Like he just straight up hasn't paid.
No, you heard what I said. I said he should be penalized. We don't even need to go through examples. If there's a precedent where he knowingly fucking hired him.
I'm glad about that.
Yeah. I'm consistent about this. Yes. Like, respect the law. It's pretty simple.
Even violation of our individual freedom.
But I have a question. Why do you think the Constitution and Bill of Rights applies to anyone outside of the borders of America?
One at a time. Okay.
Is the world an American citizen?
Okay. Both muted. Both muted. They are both muted. I'm going to say, okay, Suspect, you wanted to ask Bastiat a question. I'm gonna go the mute back and forth, so you can just go back and forth. This is how I'm gonna do it. Suspect, you wanted to ask Bastiat a question. I'm going to unmute you. Now please ask the question, and I'm gonna mute you and then turn it over to Bastiat.
This guy.
All right, I just have a question. Like, so, like, you said that like everybody is entitled to like the Constitution and Bill of Rights and the framing point when it comes to the American citizen, but it's for people outside who have who are culturally different than us, might speak a different language, lived in another country, things of that nature. Like, what makes them privy to these things that are in America? Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't think some guy in fucking Finland is an American citizen. All right, like, you should just be able to traipse a fucking law. Well, obviously take an flight, but he shouldn't be able to just fucking land in America and say, "I'm an American citizen now. You can't fucking deport me." That's bullshit. What do you?
Okay, Bastiat, you're next.
Okay. So just to be clear, 98% of this country either is an immigrant or was descended from immigrants. That is to say 98% of this country is not Native American. So this notion that somehow, I've lived here longer, I was born here, and therefore I have more exclusive claim to American values. No. American values, that is to say everything you mentioned, individual freedom, the aspiration to improve your life, to improve the life of your family, to make a better life for yourself in a free society. Those are universal values, my friend. And when people are given economic opportunity and political freedom, they will thrive. They will join into a common enterprise, as they always have throughout the history of this country. Wave after wave of immigrants has joined in that process, and there's nothing about today that makes it any different.
And that's what's made American culture to the extent that it's a thing.
It is a thing.
Well, that's what made it.
Amen.
And it seems like you've lost those principles.
So, Bastiat, would you say that since we are all most of us, 98% of us, are descended or have immigrated, should we all start from square one and go through U.S. citizenship courses and take tests and all that stuff and just get all that out of the way?
No, I think the tests should be abolished. They're arbitrary anyway. People will absorb that information naturally, just as Americans already do.
So if you're inside the borders of the U.S., you're instantly qualifying for all Bill of Rights.
No, under what I'm proposing here, you wouldn't be a citizen. You'd still have to take some kind of test, I guess, for that. But you'd be able to live here, work here, and do everything else.
I have a question for you.
Fucking point.
CTV, I think, had a question first.
Appreciate that, Bastiat. But the question that I have for you, man, is you say get rid of the whole testing process and abolish it because you say that they would just come into this information naturally as everybody else would, right? So what if these people do not actually get to go through this public education system that that we have here? That would just totally negate any part of that. You'd have to have some type of process. You'd have to agree in order to get these people the information that they need to understand, one, the laws and the Constitution, and then how the country was founded and how we fought amongst ourselves, right? And got rid of a really fucking egregious thing that happened in our history, right? And then we came out on the other side of it much better because of it, right? So you have to go through all of these things for these people, and that's exactly what the immigration process is, right?
No,
now,
it
can definitely be streamlined for sure, but that's talking to your legislatures in order to get them to do that, right? Because I think we can all agree that that's really their job to do, right?
Well, just to be, sorry.
So I would just finish off with saying that I definitely think that Congress should be doing something to help streamline this process along a lot better, not only for the people that are in other parts of the world that would wish to come join our fucking awesome American culture, right?
Right.
And then for the people that are already here to be able to more quickly be assimilated. And then at that point, once that legislation is passed, boom, it's done. There ain't nobody else being able to fly over here on a plane and then have us go through this whole process again, because this can's not just been the last 8 years getting kicked down the road. It's been for the last 40 years it's been getting kicked down the road, right?
Yeah, ever since folks decided to close our country's mostly open borders in the early 20th century, the late 19th century with the Chinese Exclusion Acts and all that. I mean, prior to that, we had almost unrestricted immigration. This country thrived and prospered like none other. But I'll say this, as far as the reason I don't want to give citizenship tests to Americans, for example, I think that would ultimately just, that couldn't fail to be done in a fashion that was discriminatory. The same reason why we don't have literacy tests with polling and things like that. I mean, just be inherently an arbitrary restriction on people's freedom. I think that ultimately our history is great and worth celebrating, even when we acknowledge all the bad that was done in American history. I think it's compelling. And while voluntary, people should certainly be given the voluntary opportunity to learn all of that if they want to. I don't think anybody should be compelled to if they don't want to. Ultimately, people should participate in this society as far as they want to voluntarily. I believe in individual freedom. I don't think the government has any business trying to engage in assimilation or teach culture. I don't think the government could do that even if it was so inclined.
But I mean, do you support the Constitution?
Well, yeah, but not because the government taught me to. I support the Constitution despite our government.
Right. So my point there would be is it's specifically written in the Constitution for the federal government to handle the issue of naturalization. And then the Supreme Court ruled that actually entailed both naturalization and immigration as a part of what their actual supreme authority was. So the federal government is supreme in the authority for immigration. So we need to fix the federal government. That's what the conversation really should be.
Just to be clear, I totally acknowledge that the federal government should be improved, and I acknowledge that the federal government has supremacy in immigration. I just think that the federal government should improve the process by largely getting out of it, which it certainly has the discretion to. I'm not saying get out of it completely, but reduce the restrictions it puts in the way considerably.
But at the same time, you would also say then that the executives, trying to kick the can down the road, right, so to speak, with this program of DACA, so that we can kind of reframe the conversation again, right? That the Congress should have done their job back in 2001 when they tried with the DREAM Act and it wasn't passed, right? And we so had all these man, that interrupted my thought.
Yeah,
but when the DREAM Act was passed, because it didn't pass then, we should have actually started dealing with the immigration and problem then, rather than allowing the executive to kick the can further down the road.
Well, we did start. We did start in 2000. I mean, the things like ICE and Homeland Security, all those things were created right after 2000. 2001. I mean 9/11. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I mean, basically they've been gradually amped up over time, but it's like these groups were created around that time, and it's not like there weren't more increased deportations under George W. Bush. They got worse under Obama, although partially that's because they changed the meaning of the term deportation. That's another thing to go into. But yeah, just the point is that we did start doing that in 2001.
because so for me, like I'm 37, right? So I've been watching politics for like the last 20 years, and I keep seeing the same issues over and over keep getting brought up, and we can't seem to get any kind of real resolution. Yet these sons of bitches are in Congress making $174,000 a year, right? And will get that for the rest of their life, right? So these people are getting paid lots of money to not do a fucking thing.
Well, can I just ask out of curiosity? Like, I agree that it would be the best thing would be if Congress passed like a law that I guess does what I would like it to do, which is make it easier to immigrate here. But out of curiosity, suppose Congress just passed the DREAM Act. I guess, does everybody here support it, or is there anybody in here who is like, no, I do not want the DREAM Act to pass. I want those people to go.
I got no problem with it at all, to be honest with you.
Okay. So we're just arguing on process then. Is that?
It certainly seems to be the case.
Or because I'm just curious here.
So I need to reread the DREAM Act's verbiage. I agree that dreamers, they could be an asset. It's hard to say what a blanket.
Well, the people that are
can do.
affected by DACA are the same people that were affected by the DREAM Act, right?
I know, but his question is specific about the DREAM Act. I'm trying to say what I support and don't support. I support dreamers and trying to keep them in the States to be a productive, maybe citizen. That's on them. And if they want to follow the rules and regulations with that, I'm cool. The other thing of granting the parents citizenship because of that, that's not cool. They have violated the U.S. code for illegal immigration, and that's a no-go for me.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm with that. Can I ask Bastiat his question now?
Just, I think it's important to understand that people have to basically like if they have any criminal convictions, they're not eligible for it. The vast majority of these people are high school graduates or go on to if they don't, then they serve in like the military. I actually have a question for you guys. Would you be okay for those of you who I guess CTV? This is a good question for you. Would you be comfortable with a DACA recipient who has actually served in the armed forces?
We already do this.
What?
We already do this. You can use the military service as a path to citizenship.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
they deport you
that's
anyway.
actually- no, Bastiat, I think it's fucking bullshit.
They have not been granted citizenship
there.
as a result of it. So I'm just asking if you guys would hypothetically be okay with someone who has put their life on the line for this country getting kicked out of this country because just tomorrow Trump made an executive order saying that they were fucked and that
Yes,
they
I'd be for something that we already do. Yes.
Would he do that?
Do what?
There's an echo.
Do you think that he'd actually kick out a person who has military service on the U.S.'s?
Summit's really loud.
People have already.
I mean, there are people who are dreamers who have actually gone to, enlisted in the armed forces. They've been on the front lines, and of course, not all of them. But there's plenty of them. I mean,
I'd have to see those cases,
percentage-wise, I don't know the exact number. It's not extremely high in comparison to the total number, but I'm just saying those particular people. Would you? I mean, personally, I think it's unconscionable to throw them out at all, but especially in that case when they've actually put their life on the line for this fucking country, to just say fuck you. And most of the time, these people don't have homes to go to in the countries that they're being kicked out to. So are you guys okay with that?
So is it not on the shoulders of the government of their home country to provide some kind of aid for them then if they fucking?
We count on
a lot of
country to do the right thing here.
A lot of these countries are like third world.
So we want to just incentivize
they're just, very impoverished, and so probably the answer to that is a big no.
Okay. Well, are you talking about military folks? Because I just dropped a link to the Military Times in the chat, where hundreds of veterans have been deported. Oh yeah, in the group chat.
Yeah,
hundreds have been deported, and the information about it is still incomplete because the government has taken incomplete records of it. So maybe very many more.
Yeah, I think military service to have a fast track to citizenship is totally cool with me. I know we already do this, and I know there's been some people who fell through the cracks and were under threat of deportation. I don't know if they absolutely were, deported, but I do think if they were, that's fucking bullshit because they served our country. I don't think you're going to find many conservatives who are against this.
Yeah.
So what if they serve our country by being very economically productive rather than engaging in a relatively economically unproductive?
Just because you're an illegal immigrant, fucking taking.
It's not the same Bastiat.
It's not the same thing.
Okay, everybody.
Wait a second.
It's not the same thing.
If we all agree on this, what is it about
Okay. I couldn't hear anybody saying anything. So
I do have
I'm gonna throw it over to Luxzifer because he hasn't talked at all in a while.
Yeah, that's hard to talk when it's hard, man. But yeah, I have that exact same question. What is it that's intrinsic to military service that you would consider to be valuable that you don't see value in when they participate in your economy? And it seems like Turk wants to answer.
Yeah, sacrificing your life and limbs in order to defend our country.
Yeah,
as opposed to providing economic benefit to
not only yourself.
I understand what the difference is. I'm asking you what the intrinsic value is. Like, why are these things different in terms of value for participating in the country?
Well, for one, whenever you sign up for military service, you actually have all of your actual natural rights under the Constitution mostly taken away, because then you fall underneath the UCMJ and you now become a ward of the state, as kind of a comparable example or a turn of phrase, right? So your job then is to obey the UCMJ, and you fall up underneath what that is the Uniform Code of Military Justice, right? Sure. So you have basically signed over your life to the idea of this country and to support it and do whatever is needed, right? You don't get there's no, oh, well, I'm not feeling well today, or, I've got a hangnail, or hell, I broke my foot. You're showing up to PT, guy. You know what I mean? You're going to pick up that rifle and take it off and do whatever you need to do.
This doesn't answer my question at all.
All of this is valuable because the people that don't serve, they don't ever have to go through any kind of experience like that. And that's why it is intrinsically valuable.
You're right about one thing. It is a different experience for sure. But at the same time, all of those other people building houses, engaging in productive labor, pay to make that experience possible. Without them, we can't have this noble.
I can't say that any of those people ever lived and slept underneath the threat of the boat actually going down the crush depth, and then you not actually dying by drowning, but you dying because the air compressed so hard that it burned your fucking lungs up.
Yeah, and that sacrifice should be honored, but that sacrifice wouldn't be possible without the taxpayer that makes it possible.
No. Yeah. So it's because somebody is being taken advantage of in a field somewhere picking strawberries. They're just as fucking respectable in the comparison to somebody who's actively risking their lives every day.
Yeah, they're engaging in a lot of productive labor, and while it may be different and worthy of a different kind of respect, yeah, that doesn't mean it's worth inherently less respect.
But it does if it was gotten here because somebody broke the law, man.
Let's get something clear though. DACA recipients are not they're not picking berries in a field. These are far more qualified. I mean, people with far better educations, people who have, just special skills. They're, it's different than, say, your average undocumented worker. They meet a much higher level of, achievement.
So can I fact check you there?
Even if they didn't, it doesn't matter. That's.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
If you're just clarifying, sorry. No, I didn't realize.
Well, Summit, you wanted to say something? You spoke up?
I did not just.
Oh, somebody said. Okay, sorry. I get
currently cherry picking this article for fallacy.
No problem. Turk.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to fact check that statement that the DACA people that are signed up and are executing DACA are far more valuable and more intrinsic to the nation. The statistics you sent, the itep.org link, shows average incomes for DACA eligible but don't sign up to be like $28,000 a year, and DACA eligible and doing it to be like 32. So it's like they're not that much more,
Does it also show their age?
Yeah, it does show it's like age 16 to 30.
Exactly.
Yeah, Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
It's fine. It's just if you're going to make an economic argument, you have to take into consideration demographics, right? Like if you're going to say, well, they're accruing X amount of income on an annual basis, and that means that they're only limited by that income to offer some degree of taxation. Like that's true for any age group, right? If you're talking about people who are 16 years old, these are very, very young people. And for a long time, they didn't have any. Okay, I think you want to respond.
No, I was just going to say, I'm not doubting that the DACA recipients that are doing the program are doing bad things. I think they're in the right track, and I support that. I'm arguing against his statement that they are far more productive than what he's showing.
The numbers that says it's indisputable that they're. I mean, you
can't say words like that when your numbers don't say that, dude.
Yes, they absolutely do. You can argue that it's a drop in the bucket like you did before, but you can't argue if you really look at those numbers that they are a net positive rather than a net negative. Some other relevant numbers, I don't think they're more relevant than what I brought up, but 97% are in school, in the workplace, or both. 16% are homeowners, 5% are business owners. More than 70% of age hold a bachelor's degree or higher. So I don't know. I mean, these are people with the potential to, was it Luxzifer said, they have a strong potential over the course of their career to make far more than that states. It's just they're young. So.
Right, and I don't doubt that statement, and I support these DACA eligible and participating people to continue doing that, and I would like to see Congress pass things. I'm just saying that when you're saying these kinds of statements, they're not as hyped up as you're saying.
Sir, you made the point that these military folks should get in because they're sacrificing life and limb, even though, of course, we know that there are many military people who will not sacrifice life and limb. They've simply put on, they've agreed to join the military, to follow the rules of the military, but many of them, their service will be relatively unremarkable. It will be a little more than an economic drain on the country. And yet, at the same time, when it comes to people engaged in economically productive activity, your right to stay here depends on whether you're making more or less than, I guess, the average Zoomer at about $32,000 a year. Like you're using like values claims on the one hand, but then when it comes to people engaged in economic activity, well, you got to prove that you're productive enough to earn the right to be here.
You're putting words in my mouth.
Every single member in the military matters. What the fuck are you talking about?
Why are you guys prioritizing military service over economic value?
Hey, did you even read the articles you fucking posted just now in that Discord?
Yeah, I did read the articles I posted. I just
you're literally wait. You're actually promoting economic values over defending the laws of America.
I'm saying that they're both vitally important and should be equally respected.
I just want to simply.
I know you want to write them off as quote unquote berry pickers, Sushi, but that's real important, as is all the other work they do.
Wait.
Hey,
no, not quote unquote. I said
Okay.
being taken advantage of. Like, don't fucking just say that's my only quote, dude.
The problem is when
you know what you just did, man?
Tell me.
You just tried to devalue somebody's military service in order to justify a criminal that made a decision to come across and break immigration law.
Wait, first of all, we're talking about DACA recipients. They didn't come across.
This is like the left-wing communists who call military service criminal and say it shouldn't matter. No, these are both important things. Economic value, military value, the things that make this country the greatest in the world. Not one, not the other, both.
So can I answer the question? So I think if we were to make this DACA equivalent law and 100% of the DACA eligible people participated and followed the law, that's good. Regardless of if they join the military or if they want to be trash collectors or become doctors. If they're following the law and we're doing it in a legal way, not through executive order, I'm all for it. I will say, though, I do value military service higher than the highest earners because they're risking something that a lot of the people in our country are not willing to do. That has value higher than what you're probably choosing to do. And myself.
So you do have a problem. So then you do have a problem with the fact that DACA recipients who serve in the military may be deported.
We've already said this.
Yeah, those links he posted, the federal government shouldn't have let them fall through the cracks like that and screwed them over. That's wrong.
So some of them actually got drug charges against them, and that's why they're being deported. But that's not every single case. But overall, yes, we don't agree with that, obviously. But once again, this is like fucking 30,000 years ago, right? This is your Bastiat. Like, you understand, like, you always say that we're descendants of immigrants, right? Like, well, like, you understand that there's a difference between immigrants and settlers, right? Like, So
no, I don't actually.
You don't
acknowledge that
actually
difference.
recognize.
That's
the
a
difference
left-wing
between them.
talking point. So I'm glad you're making it. I guess if that's what you want to do, but no,
Well,
I don't
What the
acknowledge
fuck is
that
a
difference.
left-wing talking point?
That's the leftists who called us a settler colonialist state instead
Okay,
of
well,
a nation.
I had
fucking
never even heard
partisan.
that, but what I'm trying to say is, I don't think that like settlers of this country, like that if you're a
What
direct
is
descendant of
similar
those people,
to you,
you're
then?
not a
Can
descendant
you
of an
define the
immigrant, right?
difference? What's the
Hey,
difference?
look.
Okay, I
Can
can read
I-
that for you. An immigrant is a person who comes from a country to another country in order to permanently settle there, right? And in comparison, a settler is someone who settles in a new location, especially one who makes a previously uninhabited place his home.
Got news for you, Sushi. It wasn't new for the Native Americans already
They
lived here,
understood.
my man.
Did they inhabit the entirety of the country?
Yeah, they
Okay, so-
did.
Kinda
No,
They
they did not.
did. They
We
did.
kinda
No,
did.
the only
it.
difference, the only difference that you're talking about is a set of parameters that weren't previously established. That's the only thing you're talking about. Besides that, the exact same thing took place.
But
There's
like,
no difference here.
to my understanding, even like the largest tribes did not recognize the landmass they were on a nation, right?
Exactly.
That
They
is
just
a
didn't
common-
set parameters. That's it. That's all they
Yeah,
did. They just
it
didn't set
wasn't a
parameters.
single country at the time, of course, but it's a common misconception that like all Native Americans have no conception of property, for example, which seems to be the point you're making.
Yeah, they had tribal divisions for a very good reason. By the way.
I'm gonna throw this over. If NoCommentChick wants a little bit of time to speak, I'm gonna throw it to her because hasn't had a lot of time to speak, and then I'm gonna wrap this up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I'm noticing like a double standard here in terms of, how we approach different propositions. What you're talking about is a proposition that would cause, you'd have to fill that budget hole somehow. Whenever there's any sort of legislation proposed, say for healthcare or something that might cause a little bit of a budget hole, like we can't even propose it until like we've got the okay, we're going to tax these people, and then you're going to attack like, I don't like this tax, right? But I feel like there's kind of a double standard in terms of you're proposing this change that would cost us so much money, would overburden the fuck out of our legal systems. Like we don't have the resources to prosecute all these people that you're saying that you want prosecuted. Tomorrow. And, I just don't know. I feel like whenever we want to come up with something on the left, it's like, we got to have the exact plan in place. And you don't have that same standard for yourself. And I'm kind of curious about the other thing that I'm noticing is that there's a lot of narratives here. And you said earlier it's bipartisanship. That's the reason that we can't get shit passed through Congress. I'd like you to unpack that notion of bipartisanship because it seems like kind of a buzzword and it's short-circuiting our thinking on the issue. And, say what you really mean by bipartisanship. I think that the reason we don't have bipartisanship is because these toxic ass narratives have come, through they're coming to take our jobs. Have been going since the 90s, probably earlier than that, right? This narrative has made it fucking toxic for any conservative politician to put their name on these, and a lot of them want to, but they know that their voters they're gonna get primaried so hard if they do that. So I would say that's why we can't get shit done in Congress, because the idea of a compromise, which is what I guess you mean by bipartisanship, is 100% toxic to a certain segment, a certain very active segment of the Republican base. I think the only way we can unravel that is to deconstruct these toxic narratives about immigrants as criminals, about immigrants as these shadowy fucking figures, when half of the time it's like a fucking parent trying to, in a country that we've destabilized, coming in to try to get their kids in a better living situation. Something that we should all understand, something that we should all have some, I'm sorry, I'm going to use some feelings here, but empathy? Can I say empathy? Yeah, a little bit of empathy, maybe. Just a little bit as a treat, right? That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. So we're going to, I know everybody heard that and probably wants to respond to that, but don't worry. You have a 1-minute segment, and Bastiat really wants to speak, so I'll give it to him first.
I just want to, can I ask Sushi one question?
1 minute.
We'll do this last one, and then we have to do the wrap up.
Sushi, do you think that we should enforce all of the abortion laws despite the fact that they result in the deaths of millions of innocent people a year?
Just get to your 1 minute, bro. Come on.
Okay, is that okay?
You could answer the question.
I would like him to answer that question.
Yeah, I really want to hear the answer to that question.
I feel like if we're talking about the law is the law, I think that's a worthwhile question to throw out there.
And we are also talking about how Congress has been inept at fucking doing their job, right? Okay. So let's just go ahead and get the 1 minute so we can move on to the next topic.
Do you have any strong thoughts about that? Is abortion again the law? The law is the law is the law.
Suspect, did you want to respond to that?
I don't know. I couldn't think of it as like necessarily a straw man, especially when you see the fact that like high school graduate, lower income jobs are being taken by lower skilled, work for less money illegal immigrants. This has been happening in inner city communities and things of that nature. Also,
Not true.
It is true. But the thing is, like,
Not true.
Even when leftists fucking finally admit this, it's like, oh, but what about the quality of jobs in the first place? It's always like a goalpost shift. And then on top of that, right? Like, the fact of the matter is, most illegal immigrants don't fucking try to acclimate to American culture whatsoever. It dilutes American culture.
Also not true.
That's not true.
You
That's
gotta stop.
why
You gotta
fucking
stop.
America.
Yeah,
That's why there's cultural enclaves, dude. What the fuck are you talking about? If you go to Miami right now, if you're not bilingual, you will not get a fucking job. Are you serious?
Okay. So, just to be clear here, suspect Sushi cares more about these quote-unquote
Okay, Bastiat. Okay, you're muted. Everybody's muted. Okay. I should. Next time, I'm not gonna let let's go off to this fucking tangent, because obviously people can't restrain themselves to one question. Okay, we're doing a one. Okay, if you've got something to say that's important, don't worry. We have a minute. You're gonna have a minute. Can you hold on to it, Lux?
Okay.
Can you hold? Can you contain yourself?
Yes, I can do it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm gonna start with Summit City.
Yeah, so I definitely still believe that we should definitely do something. I don't know what that is, but there is a process. I think that respect for the process does matter. There are embassies that people should be going to, and maybe we should make more embassies or something. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why a family should be dying in the desert, or an unaccompanied minor should be dying in the desert in 2020. I have no problem with immigrants coming here, but I do have a problem with not knowing who is coming into the country. If we are really going to say just, let them in or whatever, then like I want to like abolish my fucking social security number at that point, and be undocumented as well, and have nobody keep track of me either. So I don't know. That's kind of where I stand on the issue.
And next is going to be Bastiat.
Okay. So the reason I brought up abortion is not as a gotcha, but to say that I think that many people have ideas about laws which are just and unjust that really strike to the core of the values that we hold sacred in this country. I hold ahead of all other rights, the individual right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I also happen to think that the United States, as the only country in the world that is both free and powerful enough to make these values tangible, to really defend these values, should be as strong as it possibly can. So programs like DACA, which make our country richer and stronger and freer and help people in the process and have no cost, should absolutely be supported. And I think they absolutely are right, irrespective of the law. But of course, I agree the best thing would be for the law to align with the spirit of justice, and that would be by making DACA and the DREAM Act part of the law.
Okay.
Real quick.
You can't. No.
I have to. I'm just saying I have to take a piss.
Okay. Well, then you could have just. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, next is going to be NoCommentChick.
Just let him go last.
So you're winning. Okay, so I'm going now. Yeah, no, I mean it's actually, could you come back to me?
Sure. Next is Suspect Sushi.
I basically said what I wanted to say. Like, like unchecked immigration, kind of dilutes American culture, especially when these people don't actively engage in assimilation towards the country they're immigrating to. For instance, like I personally would try to adapt to the cultural ideology and environment of another country that I try to immigrate to. Like if I go to fucking Germany, I'm going to learn German. Like it's just pretty simple. These things are not a widely held belief system when it comes to illegal immigrants. And, I don't think we should be receptive to that. And we should uphold the law at all times. And it's not an unjust law, so there's that. So let's stop equaling them out to like Jim Crow and the civil rights issues and things of that nature. Thanks.
Okay, next is going to be Luxzifer.
Okay, yeah, so I'm actually very sympathetic towards a lot of the things that the right is saying. It just seems as though a lot of the solutions to those things happen to be legalizing, or rather giving these people an opportunity to become citizens, right? So if we want to protect children, if we want to give people an opportunity to work for a living wage or for a wage that's actually decent so they can have their dignity, right? The way that we would do this is by not allowing corporations to exploit them. And the way that we prevent corporations from exploiting them is by giving them citizenship so they can have protections under the law, right? So I think all of these things are really, really important. I'm just curious as to know how you guys would facilitate that without giving these people some degree of legal existence in the country. I'm not sure why we would oppose this. And also, I don't know why we keep talking about illegality. It seems like we're conflating DACA recipients with their parents. Like, I'm not sure how we would reconcile the ethical dilemma of like sending children back to a country they've never actually familiarized themselves with for the crimes of their parents. It seems like a really unethical decision to make, and I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get to talk about it. But...
Okay, next is going to be TheTerk.
So I completely agree, and what I would say is the DACA eligible and DACA executing individuals, they should be able to continue to do that. I think it shouldn't be through executive order. It should be through congressional approval and law, and that they follow the rules. One thing I've got to say, though, is, the parents put their children in this instance, and that's on them. They need to be held responsible for the choices they made through the correct legal actions as necessary. But I do believe, there are probably some solutions. Let's put these DACA people in donor homes. Let's try and see if there's some nonprofit organizations that can help bolster and keep these people in the country if they want. There's plenty of probably conservative-backed options out there, but Congress needs to act on it, not the president.
Okay, next is going to be CTV.
If y'all really wanted to fix this problem, you go to Congress. You have them actually start the process of making law. What we've been seeing is a continuation of a can that's been getting kicked down the road, right? And we have all these other two branches of government are trying to settle this issue, right? Now, I personally am all for people that are in this country, right, that are already here with a clean slate. Just say, boop, if you're here, let's just get you into the system, right? If you want to do that, and if you really want to do it, especially these people that are on the DACA program, right? But they need to get into the system, and the ones that are already in DACA and have already been assimilated into American culture by attending public schools, they should be granted citizenship. Now, the real problem that you're going to have is that if you set the precedents for illegal activity to leading to citizenship, that's where you really create the problem. And that's why we have continued to see this can get kicked down the road to where now we have something close to like 26 million undocumented people being inside the United States. So I guess it's one thing to sit here and just kind of do all these talking points and talk about empathy. I don't think anybody here looks at a situation, and if they have a kind heart, I actually empathize with these people. But if you don't have a respect for the rule of law and the way that it's actually written today, and then actually work towards actually changing it, you're not trying to fix the system, right? You're actually only breaking it even more.
Okay, next is going to be Vadim.
Okay, well, I guess I'll say that I just, although like Bastiat, I would really like to see these laws changed. At the end of the day, I just truly do not give a fuck about what the law happens to be. I don't give a fuck about what the Constitution happens to be right now. Laws have been unjust in the past, and so has the Constitution. I think that we funnel way too much tax dollars into this. It's not a net benefit to us. We could be putting that money into other things that enrich us far more. Both DACA recipients and immigrants do enrich the country financially. So that's also another reason why it's fucking stupid. At the end of the day, that's just what I think. I think it is fucking stupid. Like I said in the beginning, we are cutting up our nose to, what did I say? Spite brown people? Yeah, that's what we're doing. And I don't know. I don't know if I have much else to say. Oh, I want to say to TheTerk, he said something about parents need to be accountable. Well, I mean, this comes to a little bit of a moral argument, but I think we need to be accountable somewhat because there are some people who flee countries because of foreign entanglements that America has egged on. And I'm not saying that we are 100% by any means to blame for the situations that these people happen to have, but sometimes we do have a role in that, and we should factor that into
our like sense of like, is this just or not? At the end of the day, I think asking these people who have been productive members of society, have not broken any laws, have worked incredibly hard to attain this status, I think it's really inhumane and just actually very un-American to like it just goes against like whatever that poem is on the Statue of Liberty. Give me you're tired. I don't know what it is, but I think that it goes against that. Maybe I can look it up and quote it later. But yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
Can I do a 5-second response to that since you called me out?
You will be able to respond in the next section during the 1-minute intro.
That was a Joe Biden moment.
But during that, we will not be able to between that. And we're going straight into the next topic. This 1-minute intro is the last time you'll be able to talk.
Irene didn't get it.
Irene. Yeah, you told me to get back to you.
I had you skip me temporarily. I just got caught in the middle of thought. So anyway, I'd like to just echo what Vadim was saying. A point that maybe didn't get enough highlight on it is that like by their mere presence, immigrants are actually making jobs by stimulating the economy. So this notion that they're coming here like taking something from us is part of the narrative that needs to be unwound before we can get bipartisan response that's going to make some sort of compromise solution to do what you're saying and make it so that we don't need an executive order to take care of this sort of thing. The reason that people are here in the first place on some level is because capitalism needs them here, because our system, our economy, requires them to do jobs that aren't filled. And actually, so does our social security system, given our demographic dispersal of the people, currently living in the country. Immigrants are keeping our old people funded, right? So somebody mentioned assimilations and enclaves. I mean, I feel like we've kind of lost sight of an American value of appreciating that immigrants don't just come here and assimilate, because there really was no American culture to begin with. Anything to the extent that exists, it's something that we've created. They always make cultural contributions, and I think that a lot of you could probably think of examples of those cultural contributions that you appreciate having access to, because oh my god, I don't know what we'd be eating otherwise. I mean, I personally like being able to go to a part of town which Sushi might describe as a cultural enclave. You can experience different things there, you can buy different things. It makes shit a little bit different. It adds something. It's not taking anything away. And that's the narrative. That's the busted ass narrative that's keeping us in this stasis where nothing ever gets passed. What makes American culture great, to the extent that one actually can make that statement, is its openness, right? And that is an American value that I think that a lot of traditionalists have completely lost sight of. The poem is "Give me your tired, give me your poor, huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shores." Okay, so yeah.
Okay,
except for the brown people.
Okay, now we're going into the last. We're going into another topic here. It's going to be, should ICE be abolished? I'll say it one more time. Should ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, be abolished? You have all a 1-minute intro for this. Please do not speak over other people during the 1-minute intro. You will be muted if you do so. And this is the last time you will be able to comment on anything talked about during the last topic. I'm going to start with the middle bottom with Bastiat.
Because all of its functions are currently done by the FBI anyway, and because the involvement of the of ICE, which was created in response to 9/11, in these functions, basically makes things less efficient by reducing the ability of the FBI to do its job, diverting resources to this immigration-focused agency that is more inclined to preserve its existence like any government agency than to meaningfully enforce the law. So, for example, I've got a report here that I'll drop in the chat here. I'll drop it in the chat. Oh, sorry, I'll drop it after my minute's up. But basically, this report found that ICE does, among other things, investigations into child exploitation, commercial fraud, counterproliferation, cybercrimes, gangs, human rights, human smuggling, narcotics, all of that. the FBI does all of that, and apparently half of ICE agents and FBI agents believe that their organizations share information well, get along well, and ultimately the federal government report found that this conflict makes both agencies less well-equipped to enforce the law. So I think the FBI, the older agency with more resources and prestige, should do all of that. ICE, accordingly, would have no reason to exist.
Next is going to be SummitCityAlt.
Yeah, I don't think we should abolish them. Maybe restructure, not even that. Define what they can and can't do, I guess. Better, I don't know. There should definitely be an oversight committee for that. Possibly. I don't really know. I've never really had interaction with ICE. Not really sure what all the scope of their ability is. I did look up a little bit online, but it's almost intentionally vague, I think. But no, I think that there definitely needs to be some kind of organization that is like federally responsible to, do the work that they do, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm gonna pay attention a little bit more to this one just because I don't know like what the benefit would be to abolishing them versus not abolishing them.
No problem. Next is going to be Luxzifer.
Yeah, so Bastiat literally hit all my points. It kind of sucks. But basically, yeah, the contrast between ICE and the FBI is that's really important. I find a lot of value in the things that ICE does. I'm just not convinced that they're necessary to do those things. And I don't really know what else to say because he literally hit all. Okay, yeah, that's basically it. Thank you. That's fine.
Okay, next is going to be TheTerk.
Can't hear him.
Sorry, wrong button. So I agree that if we're talking specifically ICE, sure, we could always use to lose some federal agencies, but there's some key jobs, and that's why I'm really looking at Bastiat's data here. We do need to enforce the immigration specifically for tonight's discussion, and ICE is currently doing it right now, so we shouldn't abolish it. But if other organizations are going to take up the slack and be effective in enforcing the law as it is stated and not make up stuff, because we know bureaucracies like to do that, you could persuade me that abolishing ICE could happen, but we have to enforce immigration.
Okay, next is going to be CTV.
I'm just curious if anybody else here is aware that one of the primary functions of ICE is actually collecting up these pedophiles, right? And the human trafficking that we can all agree shouldn't be happening, right? It's one of the primary functions of that department, right? The workload that they got, right, was dramatically increased whenever Trump took office and rescinded the DACA. And then, therefore, the immigration problem that we've been continuing to see for the last 40 years has been continued to get kicked down the road. And this one federal agency happens to be responsible for this thing, right? So ICE definitely should not be abolished, because who's going to go collect up the pedophiles? I want those people off the street. So there you go. I guess we'll just kind of go with that.
Okay, next is going to be Suspect Sushi.
Yeah, like ICE, we should, uphold our borders. We should crack down on pedophile rings. We should crack down on coyotes and things of that nature, like who are smuggling people across the border. I think upwards of 70% of young women get sexually assaulted during their travel across the border and things of that nature, to the point where parents give their children birth control just so they don't get pregnant coming across the border. I think that's horrible. I think the fact that we allow our borders to be porous in nature is the reasoning for this. If we had extremely strong borders to prevent this, then we would be killing their business as a whole. That's basically it. It's pretty chill. I like ICE, and I'm not going to be deported by ICE because I'm not breaking the law, right?
Okay, next is going to be Irene.
Yeah. So I just like to touch off of what that was saying. In terms of busting up the pedophile rings, I'm with you on that. Those need to be broken up. What I'm wondering though is, what is ICE doing about the Satanists and the spirit cookers who are harvesting adrenochrome from the secret mole children that live underground? And I mean, that's a big, like, I'm just not clear on whether they're taking care of that problem too. So it seems like if they're going to bust up the pedophile rings, since it's all connected, right? That we know from QAnon that this shit is all connected. It should be going into those underground layers and find out what's really under the Comet Pizza tavern. But no, seriously, I feel like, yeah, it should be abolished. I mean, I'm not going to spread, but I'm generally in favor of abolition of other things too. But good portion of the Patriot Act, which was I think like a good portion of the Patriot Act, should be abolished. I feel like this was a response which acted as a fig leaf to governmental malpractice in terms of being on top of what Al Qaeda was doing. There was a memo that was put in front of the president that said Bin Laden determined to attack in the United States. The president said, "Okay, you've covered your ass now," and waved his hand at it, right? Like that. So the whole thing was put in as kind of a fig leaf, as a cover up over this. There's a lot of waste in that bill. There's a lot of waste in the agencies that were established, and I think the libertarians among us might have some concerns about like the kind of aggregation of all this law enforcement into a more centralized structure. Generally, yeah. I'm definitely in favor of abolition, but yeah, no, figure out how to get those mole children out, because they're the real victims in this.
I personally am a mole children activist, and I will
Can
never
somebody
stop
please
fighting.
explain that reference at some point? I have no fucking idea.
I'm glad you don't know. That's a good thing that you don't know.
Don't know. You don't know because they don't want you to know. That's why.
True.
Yeah, I thought she was just giving complete satire at that point. I mean, I didn't know whether to take her serious or not, just to be honest with you.
Nobody does. Nobody knows whether I'm memeing or not. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm a real QAnon. I know there's been some shit said about me on Twitter lately that might lead you to believe that I'm more like right wing than I'm letting on to.
Is this open convo now?
No, it isn't. Vadim has to go. Vadim has to go.
Okay, so real quickly, echo Bastiat and Luxzifer, echo NoCommentChick, where we go one, we go all. It's important to recognize that when people abolish ICE is kind of a different thing to different people. And for me, it's more kind of not just about abolishing ICE itself, but kind of getting rid of what we consider draconian immigration laws. And so it's also important to know that, because you brought up the thing about that is CTV brought up the functions of ICE, and there are actually two separate parts of ICE. One is the Homeland Security investigations, and one is the enforcement removal operations, and they're very different things. The HSI is in charge of guns, drug smuggling, human trafficking, that sort of stuff. So I am a little more amenable to or okay with that existing, but it's not just ICE that needs to be reformed, because, like, for instance, the detention centers that we have that separate families, that's, I believe, the Border Control Agency. And that to me is unconscionable. So that needs to be restructured, overhauled. I don't know. I'm not saying that we don't need the functions that they're serving. I do believe that, like Bastiat said, that there are other agencies that can take care of them. So I guess that's pretty much what I have to say for my opening statement.
Okay, I'm going to put it into open decorum. I just want to remind everybody one last time, do your best to be as productive as possible. The floor is open.
Yo, NoCommentChick, I have a question for you. All right, so I'm going to be 100% honest.
Okay.
As soon as you started doing a QAnon thing, and then right before that, when we were talking about child exploitation, I thought, like, I had a visceral reaction, and I just muted just because I thought you were memeing about, like, child sex rings. And I don't think you were, but I literally didn't listen. So
I just wasn't sure
what
that's
you
what
were
we were
saying?
talking about. I wasn't. Do you want me to just repeat what I said?
No. I mean, like, if you think that
Like,
Trump,
you didn't hear anything that I said, or
I kind of think that might be productive, because she kind of lost me too, man.
Okay,
I mean,
if Trump passes, wait, hold on.
Okay,
no,
one at a time.
You signed over $100 million to further fund the FBI.
Okay.
To crack down on pedophile rings, right? It's obvious that his fucking his administration is doing what they can to help crack down on these things. Are you memeing about that? Like, I don't understand.
priority of God Emperor Trump is definitely doing an amazing amount of work. He's the only one that's going to stand up to these deep state bad actors that are facilitating this. And we've got it's a whole thing. Like, look at so many people are involved in this. Basically everyone in Hollywood, anyone in Hollywood is probably involved.
Got it.
Hey, wait, did you say that Trump got 100 million more to fight pedophile rings? Like, what do you? I haven't heard that.
Okay, hold on one second.
Tell me about that. Yeah.
Pedophile rings. Yeah, they were just letting them go.
Well, I guess my point, as far as I know, CTV had mentioned pedophiles. Somebody who has committed sex crimes against children, I would certainly want them to be removed, or imprisoned or whatever. But that's the FBI already is able to do that. We already have authorities in the U.S. that are able to do that.
Yeah, they've got a good track record of that, don't they?
Yeah, at least as good as ICE. The FBI is one of the most prestigious law enforcement agencies in the world. So I don't know why.
So the Epstein documents that were just fucking released about them letting fucking Epstein Island just kind
Wait a second. I'm curious, Summit. Wait a second.
So it's like assuming like that, all these documents that you're mentioning are what you say they are. Are you saying that therefore, because Jeff Epstein wasn't prosecuted, like the FBI has failed, but ICE for some reason is better?
No. What I'm saying is, why are you putting the FBI on a fucking pedestal?
Yeah, I'm saying you should have one federal agency doing federal law enforcement instead of multiple federal agencies competing to enforce the same law.
Yeah.
But that one federal agency also has its own flaws and its own internal structure issues that are going on. So it's like putting them on a pedestal is not really good.
There's no pedestal. It's just a matter of saying that one agency can do the job of these two agencies. So why not allocate all of our resources to the one and not?
Why not have more manpower?
Yeah,
well, you can have more manpower in the one agency. Yeah.
Like in the report I showed, for example, on the border, half of the people involved. Well, it was 40%, just to be specifically clear.
Where can I find that?
Is that in the Discord? I haven't looked at it yet either.
Yeah, I dropped it in the Discord. You don't have to read the whole thing. It's kind of long. Just page 3 and page 29. Page 3 shows the responsibilities that ICE claims for itself or is delegated by federal law, and then the things that the FBI does, and it is almost to a T the same thing. The only thing that ICE currently does.
Where did you find this? Because I fucking looked and I could not find anything.
It's a report from the Department of Justice.
Yeah, it's a .gov report. We all trust those, by the way. It's completely factual stuff that everyone always believes, right?
Well,
their roles are going to be factual.
If we got something better, I'm happy to talk about it. But in terms
that
of
was just a jab at everyone not listening to the government reports.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's that they do the same thing, and to the extent that the one agency is older and does have a clearer mandate, we should reduce interagency competition. And to the right now, the FBI could be doing this stuff.
So I would actually agree with this if the FBI can pick up all of the slack and it improves efficiency of executing the law. I am completely for that. But as these bureaucratic agencies increase in size, they start to get bloated and they start to stop enforcing laws appropriately. BATF is a prime example. EPA, other sorts of organizations. Having this big almighty enforcer of this could be bad.
But I mean, right now we have competing enforcers.
Right, yeah, and that's why I'm like, I could agree with this whole thing. It's just there's got to be some strict bureaucratic. I would even say Congress needs to write into law what the organization is going to do and how it's structured, not let the bureaucracy dictate what it does.
Yeah. Is this the Sushi? This is so this is 35 million given to aid human trafficking victims, right? Not like 100 million given.
No, I already said that, and I was like calculating the number somewhere. But when he signed multiple executive orders to put more of pre-existing resources towards these things, those numbers necessarily aren't being counted purely because they're like black budget type things, like within the alphabet agencies. I'm trying to find. There's actually like a number of convictions when it came to like the last previous administration. I'm trying to find that one right now, but yeah. So give me a second.
Bastiat, I'm pretty conflicted about the FBI thing, about lumping everybody into one agency kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that it is possible to have an entity that is of the government that's too big as well. I don't know, man. There's just a lot of corruption that runs really deep inside the FBI as more and more like it's kind of brought into the open with certain things that are topical these days. I don't know, like they would have to like really have some kind of entity that kind of like checks them and make sure that there's, you know, like almost like IA, I guess, for police. But I mean, even that isn't foolproof.
Yeah, no, I mean, we would certainly need like some oversight. Like, for example, a couple of months ago, there was a federal lawsuit that alleged 3 ICE agents of raping women before sending them back for deportation. So we certainly need oversight. But like, you know, ICE doesn't seem to have any kind of cleaner record.
Would the FBI do any better in that instance, though?
I think probably it as a more prestigious, longer standing organization with a clear congressional mandate. Yeah, probably I think it would do better. But,
all right, so Bastiat, I gave you a link. It's a Google Doc, but before you go like, oh, it's a Google Doc. It shows the number of incarcerations when it comes to human trafficking and things of that nature, with a correlating link showing what they were arrested for under the Trump administration, and it's in the thousands. It's well over.
What is it from?
It tells you exactly, like from Justice.
No. I mean, what?
Human trafficking, child predation, things.
No. I'm asking who produced this paper?
No, I'm literally telling you. It shows you the exact link where it's coming from. It's someone who collected all this information and shows direct links to each individual case.
Oh, so it's not like a government study or
no. Let's listen. Like if you click on it, you'll see what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Wait,
like,
it's an aggregate.
It'll say John Doe, and then it'll say what they did. And then it'll give you the direct link to justice.gov, things of this nature, telling you exactly what they did under the Trump administration, like when it comes to post executive orders.
Okay, do you mind if I ask something real quick? I'm super confused. I think I might have missed something here. Do you mind if I ask what you're trying to prove with this document?
No, what I'm saying is there was like memery saying that we weren't like cracking down more under the Trump administration when it comes to child trafficking, things of that nature. And then I also linked before that the executive orders that he put, and then before that, him giving direct relief to people affected by child trafficking. So I just want to think
that Barack Obama wasn't like willing to take on these entrenched power structures.
That's not what we're saying. I'm saying someone is cracking down considerably harder.
But why? Why is Trump doing it harder? Why do you think that's the case? Why was it?
He cares more about the issue.
Okay. So Obama just didn't care enough about the pedophile rings. He was like okay with those being there.
No, I think the better way to phrase it is he is enforcing the law better than what Obama might have been doing. With his department.
So it's more competent than Obama. His administration is more competently
selective execution of laws. I don't know.
So I like how you're not looking at the data and you're like, oh, you're saying this. And
yeah. I'm just asking the questions.
It's a very complicated.
I'm just here to ask questions. I really want to know more about this, right? My eyes have been opened in the last few days. I don't know if anybody's read my Twitter, but I've been expanding, kind of my political horizons, and I've been looking into some of this stuff, doing the research, and I really think that. But I mean,
the data so you can look at it yourself. You can look at it together. Maybe
the data that you've given is so complicated. How can you?
It's the best data that I've ever seen. I love your data. I just want to know what you attribute like the motive to. I mean, just out of curiosity. It's not like I'm just curious.
So his data is just an aggregate. People are adding instances and sources to this sheet as it applies to the tabs. It's not a sanctioned
I've seen these sorts of documents before, and I mean, I'm not saying like perhaps every single thing in there is absolutely factual, but I've seen these sorts of documents.
Just try one. Just try one and look at it.
Yeah, let the man finish his statement.
Look, there's tons of them. There's tons of examples there. It's not like aggregated data that is like put into it's someone who is just assembling all these different cases, can't even tell if these cases have been adjudicated or not.
I'm just saying
the methodology is lacking.
I'm just saying it's very difficult to look that over inside a short period of time and really determine whether or not it's sound. and I have seen documents exactly like this that were full of total bullshit. So it's hard to.
So instead of like looking at it or clicking on it or trying to investigate,
I have looked it over, and I see what kind of document it is, and I've been telling you. I mean, did anybody else agree with me here?
I guess what I would say is I get what you're saying, although I think it's entirely possible that President Trump has succeeded at some, more than President Obama at some sort of he's focused on. So I don't really think that's like a point. I haven't looked at this, but I mean, it's absolutely reasonable.
Yeah, I'm even willing. Sorry, I'm willing to grant this. Like, I'm willing to grant this. I don't really care. I just don't see what the point of it. It seems like we're moving really far away from the actual topic.
It was like I get
what your goal is
than anyone else.
Okay,
I get what the goal is. It just seems completely
okay. So we've talked about child trafficking. We've talked about this for a while. Is the point you're trying to get at is that ICE would be better at dealing with this than any other organization, therefore we should keep ICE? Is that the argument?
I believe the most attributed source to these arrests under the Trump administration are a direct result from apprehension from ICE, 1, and 2. I just felt like the comments and in my opinion, the memery when it came to this issue from NoCommentChick made me want to pull up and show like this. He's actually extremely effective and considerably more so than the previous administration.
Maybe you just haven't experienced the Great Awakening yet.
At what expense? Because there are all sorts of human rights violations that have occurred as a result of ICE that we can talk about. And
what would you do a human rights violation for you?
Children dying at a concentration
there was one situation where I believe a pregnant woman was apprehended right around the time that she was giving birth, and they brought her to a facility rather than taking her to a hospital, and she, as a result of it, she had a stillbirth. There's all sorts of things. It runs the gamut, but there's just no shortage. Like this is not a controversial thing to say that ICE has been unethical in a lot of it, the ways in which it's detained people.
Custody. Is that what you're referencing, Lucifer?
I'm referencing the 6 migrant children who died in U.S. custody. Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty.
Obviously, that's an issue. I don't know if that's due to neglect or the fact that they might have pre-existing conditions, or the fact that maybe they shouldn't have been trafficked to the border in the first place.
None of this has to do with children dying. This is nonsense.
I mean, actually, it really does. Like, okay, like if they have medical afflictions beforehand and they choose to bring somebody across the border, which could exacerbate their pre-existing conditions.
Do you have any evidence?
Children have died of fucking dehydration.
No. Listen, I said if, and I also said I haven't fully read it yet. I'm saying this could be a potential thing.
Dude,
right?
I'm curious here, since I guess I wasn't that interested in the pedophile issue, but apparently actually federal prosecutions for child trafficking have dropped actually substantially under the Trump administration. There's a link if you want to check that out. So I mean, I'll have to check out the source you sent. Wow. Like actually they rose. It's a legal news service. They rose under the Obama administration, and then they started to decline under the Trump administration. I was about to say that too. One other thing I was going to say, as far as ICE goes, apparently ICE actually itself has a lot of there's a lot of discord with respect to the units of ICE, and ICE's criminal investigators have asked to be separated from the detentions and deportations unit.
Where's the citation of their data anywhere? Like I'm looking at an article. Where's the citation of their data?
All right, hold on a minute.
Oh, what is that background noise?
I think that is.
Oh, okay. I see. I see it.
Yeah, okay.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, so the source is a set of records kept, or rather tracked by Syracuse University, and let me pull those up for you. Okay, so they tracked the number of prosecutions brought under Title 15 of the federal code. This is the chief statute. Apparently, the federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, for example, use in the Epstein cases or in the Epstein charges that you brought up. And as of 2019, those went down from 221 the year before to 162 in 2019. In 2017, they were above 250. They climbed slowly during the Obama administration, except for a small dip in 2015, and have gone down in the Trump years. So you can check those out there.
Suspect Sushi.
That's a different issue from financing, but that's prosecutions.
Sushi, you said you asked me to clarify about different types of violations. Now, maybe I could find a better source, but right here I see that there's been over 400 allegations of sexual assault or abuse inside detention centers, inadequate medical care, regular hunger strikes, frequent use of solitary confinement, more than 800 instances of physical force against detainees. So I mean that really scratches the surface. I think that there's probably better sources. That's just the first thing that I found.
Pretty horrible, man.
Right off the bat.
That's pretty horrible, man. But like, do they specify if it's the guards of the thing, or is it the things that are just happening to them?
These are inside ICE detention centers.
So it's all together. Like all the allegations are just together, whether it's from like the authority or the people within it with them.
I don't understand what your question is.
No, I'm saying like, is it other detainees on detainees, or is it specifically from like the guards and things of the nature upon the detainees? You understand what I'm saying? Like
it's the detainees that this has occurred to, not
no. Listen, I'm saying the victims of the detainees. I'm saying, are the perpetrators just ICE agents or whatever, or is it also other detainees? Or is it all together?
That's a good question. It does not.
Either way, when they're in ICE custody, they're ICE's responsibility. So
no. That's why I was just asking generally. I wasn't like trying to, reduce what's going on. But I say that's an issue, and you want to know a great way to do it. Let's just not detain any of them and just turn them back to their respective countries. I agree.
Yeah, it's okay. He's just asking the questions.
No, but obviously this occurs. Like there has to be some sort. What do you just expect that they snatch them up? And then within like 1 minute, they throw them on a plane. I mean, that's not going to happen.
They do have a right to due process like everybody else.
But do they though?
Yeah, they do.
Actually,
it turns out they do, because if they didn't have a right to due process, we might accidentally deport some American citizens as well, for example, or some people who are illegally here. And if there was no due process, we would have due process. If there was no due process with the deportation process,
one at a time. Okay, but I'm talking. Okay. CTV, you wanted to say something?
Bastiat, just because you start screaming in your house, it doesn't make anybody listen to you anymore. I don't know if you know that or not.
Do they have due process? The most fundamental thing that America has a right to.
Yeah, they're not Americans.
People in this country.
I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a process, or for you to say that those people have due process.
Yeah,
protections that are granted to American citizens. That's just not the case. You have to be a citizen.
Even if you want to send them all back, you still have to
get unless you're
make sure you're not sending Americans back.
Bastiat's actually right on that.
I'm going to take the lawyer's opinion over no disrespect. It's pretty cool that you're like a submarine dude.
Okay.
But I'm going to take Bastiat.
Okay. Summit, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, Bastiat is actually right on that. Also, I am curious on how you articulate that with what we do with terrorists and due process.
I think terrorists should have due process too. I mean,
I think
if they're in this country, they should have due process. Now, if it's on a battlefield, that's a different issue. But yeah.
Okay. Next, Luxzifer, you wanted to say something for a while?
Yeah. So there's I'm super curious because I feel like we're getting really far away from the actual topic. I wanted to ask. It seems as though we all sort of agree that the FBI and the ICE sort of accomplish similar goals. And assuming that we agree on this, is there any sort of the arguments that I heard from especially Sushi and CTV, because I know Summit wanted to sort of stay out of the conversation to some extent. The arguments that they presented were all essentially that, okay, the ICE is either stopping child trafficking or they're stopping some sort of, human trafficking or something of that sort. And since the FBI already accomplishes this, do you guys have any problems with this, or
do you
have any
it? Would you call that an accomplishment?
Well, it's their role. It's their role to do it, right? Like they accomplish it to the same extent that any other federal agency would accomplish it.
Hey,
I'm asking, do you have any problems with the FBI just sort of taking over this whole situation, or do you have a reason to believe that ICE would do a better job? Or
so
ICE already exists, man.
Are you asking me specifically?
I'm asking either one of you because you're the ones who made this argument.
So one of the things that I had brought up earlier in this topic of conversation is I'm apprehensive about a single agency taking on so many roles, right? So it's almost like the argument with the police, like people will say that law enforcement wear too many hats, and that's a worry of mine, that a single agency handling too many things, things start to fall through the cracks, and lack of oversight and things of that nature. Because the FBI does operate outside of a lot of the same confines as a lot of these other agencies do.
Bastiat, when you're looking at those numbers, I just read through the article that you're saying. Do you know like the most widely attributed reason as to why prosecutions are considerably lower? Even though the number of incarcerations are absolutely higher, the most widely attributed thing is because of the fact that most of the witnesses believe that their families will be killed in their respective countries from like the coyotes and things of this nature if they took the witness stand. So it actually has nothing to do with like any type of inadequacies when it comes to Trump. It's the fact that they are making a decision to not go on the witness stand because of the repercussions that could happen in the respective countries. So you can't really attribute that to Trump. That's more of an issue in their own home countries. The fact that like their countries are so poorly run and allow criminal organizations to have that kind of power.
Sounds like their family should be here too, then, so they can be.
It sounds like we should help support other countries' infrastructure so their countries could be less like fucking overrun with like cartels in comparison.
Well, instead of being like one way, like altruistic, which I don't support. I want to make our country better and also make life better for them by letting them bring their families here. Like if that's the issue, then bring them here too, so they're safe, so they can testify and put these pedophiles in prison.
What if they don't want to come here? Are you for like forcing people to live here, Bastiat?
No, but I'm definitely for allowing people every opportunity to come here if they want to.
That was a total fucking joke. I'm sorry.
I mean,
But yeah, so
what changed that made that the case?
The amount of arrests in Trump is I gotta find Obama's numbers, but I think I saw the article referencing up to triple the amount, but I'm not gonna just say that like as absolute. But they're considerably up. It's just the issue of prosecutions being like cartel-led coyotes and things of that nature who will kill your fucking family if you come out about this. So.
Yeah, it's a shame that they have such a lucrative trade because of how we're enforcing
It's a shame that their countries are run that way. That has nothing to do with America.
I know it absolutely does. The fact that we bar immigration, the fact that we bar immigration creates a market for smuggling, and therefore it exists. Therefore,
no. But if we didn't have porous fucking borders, this wouldn't be an issue.
If we had porous borders, this wouldn't be an issue because trafficking wouldn't be difficult. You could walk on in.
It'll be a huge issue. Yeah, Sushi, you made two arguments here.
No. I made one.
Can I make a point of clarity towards this?
No, just 1 second. You made two arguments actually. You talked about the cartels and you talked about smugglers. It's true that if you had more open borders, you wouldn't have to worry about smugglers to the same extent. And as far as the cartels are concerned, if you were to abolish the drug war, you could actually resolve a lot of these issues as well.
Oh no, we're not talking about the drug war, but I do agree that.
These are two issues that are. But what you said was in the United States, we don't actually have a hand in their problems in Central America. We absolutely do, and these are two reasons why.
Okay, so but you understand that like in open borders, like it's like a race to the bottom when it comes to like social benefits and things of that nature. The more people we let in, the larger the strain of our social network.
The academic literature supports the opposite. Like there's economic benefits. Okay, 1 second. I'll just.
Can I make a point of clarification here?
Sure. Then I want to throw it to Vadim because I think Vadim was trying to say something earlier and he wasn't able to.
Well, it's just there are all sorts of other ways.
I said I was going to be Turk, and then I was going to throw it to Vadim.
Okay,
it's just a quick. Oh, okay.
Go ahead, man. You can go.
Yeah, it's just a quick thing, which is, I mean, you know what? Why don't you go ahead because I'm trying to find the actual numbers on the claim that I'm about to make.
Sure. So I'm, for the sake of discussion, I'm lumping in child sex traffickers with human trafficking. Okay. Because there's data from different time sources and all this other stuff. I posted in the Discord. Federal prosecutions for human trafficking have been flat since 2013, and we have actually gotten increasing amounts of referrals for prosecution. Bastiat, you're a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes we don't have the funds to actually go and do prosecutions, regardless of if there's enough evidence or if whatever. So I'm more inclined here that we could be prosecuting more if we had more resources allocated to whatever agency. But what I'm saying here is, do we put that funding towards ICE, who would be prosecuting these, or would we be putting it towards FBI?
Well, I guess in the situation you described, I might well put it less toward, for example, enforcing immigration laws on like nonviolent, non-criminal people who just happen to be here illegally and focusing on those pedophiles that keep coming up.
Sure,
instead of saying like which agency.
The question is, do we do it with ICE or do we do it with FBI or some other amalgamation? There's clearly a need. We need to pick who's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I would presumably want to go with the federal agency that we trust with, Americans and crimes against Americans and all that, like, the FBI, rather than a new agency created like after 9/11, whose membership itself has written to its director and to the federal government asking that it be broken up. It doesn't seem to be, as functional an agency. Although I will acknowledge that there seem to be partisan differences, according to Pew Research, in terms of whether you are more in favor of ICE and more in favor of the FBI. Democrats seem to be more in favor of the FBI. Republicans seem to be more in favor of ICE.
And I think that's where I struggle. It's like I don't want the FBI to get even larger, because there could be instances where whatever subcommittee gets created with this new dedicated effort, prosecutions could go down, they could go up. We might not get as good of prosecutions. I need to see data, and this is where Congress comes in and not the bureaucracies. We need to see data saying which of these bureaus is more effective at enforcing immigration.
Okay, so I can speak now to what I was going to say. Basically, Sushi, I think that you're under the impression that the number one way that illegal immigrants come into America is like through Tijuana or the border, basically, and that's not the case. According to the Department of Homeland Security, the number one way that people come in is legally. They come in, about 700,000 people come into our country a year. They overstay their visas, and 600,000 stay. So, but on top of that, okay, so that's, you're not going to fix that with a wall. The next thing that we could talk about is the inefficacy of the wall. The wall that Trump has planned. There are all sorts of problems with it, stemming from the cost to the way it's constructed. There are ways that people can circumvent the wall, all sorts of ways. So it's not the deterrent that you think it's going to be. So those are my points.
So I didn't know you were gonna do the overstaying of work and student visas and things and coming with air travel, but that doesn't. But the issue is like there's not a huge amount of fucking. You understand that it's considerably more nuanced than just like, oh, I think the hugest mass of people come across like our southern border. It's more like how they come across the southern border and the people that are being victimized through the southern border that I find the hugest issue with. Right? Just because there's like a whole bunch of people coming through student visas doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to attack all these things.
But your claim was. Your claim was that the wall, like a wall, would keep the, illegal immigrants from coming in, and I'm just saying that's fundamentally incorrect.
Reduce the amount of illegal immigrants coming in. Do you disagree with that?
Like it would reduce it, but it would not. But one, it would not. It remains to be seen how effective it would be.
Would it reduce the amount of people being sexually abused across the border? Yes or no?
No. I don't think it would, because I think people would.
Extremely strong southern border.
Yeah.
No. If we have an extremely strong southern border where they
absolutely, he just said it probably more succinctly than I could.
No way.
Okay, I think I'm gonna.
Wait, Sushi.
Oh, Bastiat,
this is important. Well, Sushi, do you understand why these sexual assaults are taking place, right? Like, you read that literature, the same literature that I read, right? The same thing that Trump was citing when he incorrectly suggested that they were being raped across the border by the same people who were taking. You've read that literature, right?
Why don't you peep game for everybody, right? Because I might not understand words.
So. Okay. All right, sure. So what I'm saying to you is the reason why these things happen is because people rely on these sorts of coyotes or whoever to get them across the border in the first place, because they don't have the money to do this process themselves. Do you understand? And this is why they have to pay with sexual favors. This is why they fill themselves up with birth control before they even head on this journey, right? It's a very despicable process. But if you were to make this process more expensive and more difficult, you're asking for an increase in the amount of assault that's going to take place, not a decrease.
People aren't going to lose their will. People are not going to lose their desire to come to this country just because there happens to be a wall, because it's not going to be impenetrable, and they're still going to try.
Right.
Anyway,
so don't you understand the logical fallacy in what you just said, though?
No, there was no logical fallacy. I'm saying that they will still try just as hard.
Dude, if you fucking get close to your mic again and just start screaming into it, that's fucking ridiculous. It's childish. Start acting like a fucking adult. Right? For one. For two.
I'm sorry.
for two. The logical fallacy is that you're saying, oh, well, that's not going to stop them from coming across the border, so why do a fucking thing about it, right? You just want to have open borders and have no control at all, so that anybody that wants to from anywhere in the world can just come in here and just take over.
Yeah,
right? That's literally what
I'm
you're saying.
Can I get a clarification? Can I get a clarification? When you say take over, what did you mean by that? I didn't understand.
Like replace us or something?
It's a figure of speech, right?
Oh.
So the point is, though, is that if you believe in the rule of law and the Constitution that we live in, it gives the federal government the power to control the naturalization of people into the country, right? And the country is defined by borders, right?
I think
so if the country is defined by borders, then the government has to be able to control those borders. Otherwise, we should just go take over the whole fucking world, right? And then just make it all the United States of America. That way everybody can live under what we're doing, or we have borders, and our government is responsible for making sure that the people coming across those borders are actually assimilating into the process or coming in through a visa and doing their thing and then leaving the country at said time, right? And that we don't have people that just come in, stay, and then start populating out without there ever being any kind of checks. Because
I know. I saw it coming. Bastiat.
Me though?
Don't make me. Okay, look. We got to wrap it up. We're running out of time. So trust me, you will have time to respond to what you just disagreed with. But we have 15 minutes, so I got to wrap it up. If you want to go a little bit over the 1 minute mark, you can go a little bit over the 1 minute mark even, okay? And since Bastiat was the most energetic, and I probably shouldn't reward it, but I'll let him go first.
They're going to invade and they're going to populate us, as if there's any invasion, right, among people coming here to engage in productive economic activity, which indeed is the primary reason that people come here, to improve their lives and improve the lives of their family. And then this notion they're going to go and start populating out again, as if that's a problem. By the way,
it is a big fucking problem.
No, it is not a problem. And by the way, since you're going to talk about it, it's worth asking. Why is it then, do you have any concern about people who are already here being able to populate out as they see fit? Is that a problem to you? Or is it the fact that they were born in this country already somehow make that something that we shouldn't worry about? Of course we shouldn't worry about it, because the average American is a good person who wants to make a better life for themselves, just like the average immigrant is. Just like the average immigrant is. They come here to make a better life for themselves. We have nothing to worry about them with respect to an invasion, because it isn't an invasion. It's millions of individual choices, not some collaborative attempt to invade. It's millions of individual choices of people who come here, just as they have for centuries, to make their lives better, not to colonize, not to take over. Nobody comes here for that. They come here to make their life better. And in the process, the free market allows them to make life better for all of us.
Okay, next, CTV. I do want to make it clear. That was his ending statement. We don't try to have any debate during any statement. I'm going to throw it to you because you obviously want to respond to that. You have 1 minute.
Dude, what you're not understanding is that the people that don't get the opportunity to go through the naturalization process all end up in this same fucking category that we're dealing with right now. And what I would like to see is a process where they actually come through the ports of entry and then they actually have some type of path to citizenship to where they're not undocumented people living inside the country. For you to sit there and suggest that those people should be able to work underneath the fucking radar and not ever be able to even vote in what's going on around them, or for them to be able to actually contribute as an actual citizen does, is very unempathetic, and it's kicking the can down the fucking road, guy.
Okay, next is going to be TheTerk.
You muted.
Button.
Sorry, wrong mic. So like Bastiat said, it's millions of people making individual choices. Each of these individuals are making the choice to immigrate, and they're not doing it legally. So as for the discussion here, do we abolish ICE? ICE is just an arbitrary group of, bureaucracy that we instate to do a task. If another organization can do that task better, more efficiently, and more effective with less bias, I could go with that. But I have very huge. I don't fully trust the FBI because there's already clear instances of them having issues. They're already under investigation for things they've done in the past. It's just like do we go with a smaller organization that's more curtailed and specific, or do we go with the larger one? I just want the job to be done.
Okay, next is going to be Vadim.
Well, I mean, CTV, you were talking about I don't know if you mentioned specifically refugees, but you were talking about what you feel is compassionate. And Trump did execute an order that allows individual states to refuse refugees. And Texas was, I mean, there may have been more since this particular article was published, but Texas has already refused to accept refugees. I mean, in my opinion, that's pretty inhumane. And I guess just the last thing I'll say is what I started with, which is just that abolishing ICE is about more than just ICE. It's, for at least to me, it's kind of saying that we have a lot of problems with our immigration policies. A lot of it is draconian, and we need to address these issues. We need to make sure that they're enforced in a humane way, if they are enforced at all. And yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say. I mean, there was more that I wanted to say specifically to what CTV said before, but I forgot what the fuck he was talking about at this point. So next.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to NoCommentChick.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to touch on what I was saying earlier, and I just didn't want anybody to think that
you're having some audio problems.
I'm having. Am I roboting?
Yeah, roboting, basically. So I'm going to throw it over to somebody else and come back to you.
Yeah.
Hey, real quickly, I'm sorry. I wanted.
No.
This is going to be 5 seconds?
No.
All right.
No.
All right.
Okay. Next is going to be. Next is going to be Luxzifer.
Oh.
Okay. So, yeah, I think we broadly agree on the role of these two institutions. Whether or not we agree that we should have one institution to do the whole thing, I guess not, but I personally think it's perfectly fine to have the FBI do the whole thing. I would be more interested in addressing CTV's point about immigration. I like the idea of having people come into this country and work and provide for their families and be able to participate in our economy. The idea that we wouldn't be able to keep track of them strictly on the grounds that they've come here. The only reason we're not able to keep track of them is because they prevent us from keeping track of them, because we've made it illegal for them to participate in our economy at the moment. Right? If we make it legal for them to participate in our economy, even if we don't necessarily grant them citizenship immediately, we can still keep track of them and allow them to be beneficial to us in a meaningful way. And I think that's useful, right? I think that's beneficial. I think there's literature that supports this. I actually linked some of the academic literature in our Discord, because it's behind a paywall and I have the credentials, so I thought it would be useful. It's in a PDF form. You guys are welcome to look over it anytime you want. And yeah, it would be nice if we were to just sort of like look at the stats and stuff.
Okay, next is going to be Summit.
Yep, got apprehensions about an organization like the FBI taking on another aspect of their duties. I don't think we should abolish ICE. I think that if we can make that the primary focus, it's beneficial for the most part. FBI doesn't have to adhere to they don't play in the same confines as a lot of other law enforcement agencies. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think that maybe we build some sort of way to, if you can get to the border kind of thing, maybe go through the process of, starting your naturalization process there. But it's really crazy that I don't think I've ever gone up against so many libertarians before. Just preach open borders.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it to Suspect Sushi to finish this off.
Okay, so once again, right? I don't really I support ICE. I support their cracking down on child sex trafficking rings. I don't approve of moving the goalpost by saying, "Oh, well, child sex trafficking would go down if we just allowed for open borders, but we keep our doors locked at night every fucking night, right?" So yeah, I think it's stupid. It's fucking asinine. Like the Trump administration has been considerably more effective than any previous administration when it comes down to cracking down on these things. So go for that. Also, the fact of the matter is, cartels in the shittily run countries that they came from. I said shittily run countries. I didn't say what people think I would say. And cartels allowing for these places to be basically their own like little playground is the reason for these people wanting to escape from their respective countries. maybe we can do a little bit of assistance, maybe help give some money, like, or help with like law enforcement or whatever we got to do in those respective countries. But I don't think that they need to be fucking coming here illegally, and then we should be clapping them on the back for it. Also, the fact of the matter is, illegal immigrants do get taken advantage of when it comes to like the jobs that they do, because like they can be threatened with like deportation if they don't do these jobs and take considerably lower wages than an American worker. So I also think that's an issue. You care about human rights issues, but you just want them to work in fucking fields or in like janitorial jobs or menial jobs that like Americans traditionally don't want. So I think that's kind of an issue. That's a meme, and I think it's a bit of a double standard.
Okay, we're going to start on the next topic. Again, this 1 minute.
Did you want me to jump in if my mic's better now?
Your mic's still having problems.
Okay.
Okay. We're going.
It sounded all right to me. I mean,
I'm hearing a few. Say something again.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing.
I think it's good enough. I think it's good enough. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I just had a few things to add, and like I didn't want anybody to think that I was coming at them in bad faith, because I know what that feels like after this week. Like in terms of the memery, and I'm really sorry about that. The thing about the pedophiles thing, though, like the thing that I was trying to get at is that it just kind of, to me, it seems like low hanging fruit. Like if I was, president, if I was somebody in politics, I'd want to be, if it was out there, I'd want to get it, because it's a really easy thing to be like, look what I did, I busted up pedophile rings. This is great, like elect me again, right? You'd think that people would want to do that, and I was just trying to figure out like what kind of like resistance y'all might think was going on with the Obama administration, because I mean there is an issue of kind of political influence maybe getting in the way of some of the prosecutions that need to happen, but I don't know if those are the prosecutions that involve like the border. I'm thinking, we're talking about more like people like Epstein, Trump, and Clinton, people with connection. And it does scare me that like, this shit can be going on for years right in front of people's faces, and it's not prosecuted. So I didn't mean to say that this isn't an important issue. I think it very much is. And it's something that needs to be taken care of. It just what you were saying sounded an awful lot like another narrative. So I just wanted to make sure that's not what we were talking about. And yeah, just like you, I want these. I'm concerned about these frickin' communist invading radicals populating out and replacing us. Right? That's scary.
Okay, next, we're gonna go into the next topic. The 1 minute intro is the last time you will be able to comment on anything that was in the previous topic. So I'm going to start this off with TheTerk on the first topic, and the topic is what should happen to undocumented peoples who are currently living in the United States?
Oh wow. So throughout the debates, I've been a firm believer in following the law, and we've agreed at large, the whole panel here, that people that travel illegally have violated federal law. So I'm kind of open that we can create laws that either accept people or reject people. We can change things. I'm completely open to that. It's the process that we have under the Constitution. But I do believe that they should be held accountable, and that, yeah, that's my stance. Why do I have to go first?
I don't know, because I feel like you're a nice guy. Is that okay? Next, I'm gonna go throw it over to Bastiat.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dylan. So I got to say, first of all, to CTV's point earlier, this is the first time anybody's ever accused me of being less than empathetic on the immigration position. Just to be clear, my position is that everybody who wants to come to this country, with some exceptions, basically people with violent criminal records and people who have contagious diseases. I'd like to wait until those diseases clear up, unless they're easily controlled, like HIV, for example. But beyond that, yeah, the notion that this is a non-empathetic position to ensure that millions of individuals who want to come here and make this country better are free to do so and not arbitrarily prevented from doing so by state force. I got to say, I think recognizing and appreciating people's individual freedom is about as empathetic as it gets. But beyond that, I also really like the point that Suspect Sushi made, which is perhaps the height of this notion, this conservative notion of empathy, where instead of allowing people to improve their lives by coming here to this country to work and improve our lives in the process of improving theirs, apparently we should keep them out and then just send them money to make their countries a quote-unquote better place. All right. Yeah, it's ridiculous. The people who are in this country illegally are by and large contributing to this country. And I think we ought to recognize that. We ought to appreciate that by making them legal at the first available opportunity, so that all of these bad effects that come along with immigration that's illegal can be wiped out. They can compete fairly with every other American at the same wages. They can work above the table, and we can get all the good of immigration with little to none of the bad. So.
Next is going to be Summit City.
Yeah, so I think that, if you're found to be an undocumented person in the United States, that I think that a case should be opened against you. I think that it is a result of that case, though, should be a push for naturalization. I think we need to have some kind of program there. Like, hey, you've been here X amount of years. It's, obviously sending you back could be detrimental to your way of life. I think that, things that should be taken into account are a lot of the same things that are taken into account for people who come here to gain citizenship through military experience. They take into account, your criminal history and work records and things of that nature. I think that there is a case. There is an argument on the left side of things here for making people or helping people along in that process, because you wonder how many people actually cross the border and even have any kind of notion of how the process is supposed to actually work, right? That kind of goes along with the whole idea of incentivizing it, right? So it's oh, life's over there is a lot easier, and I've got a cousin or somebody over there that is flourishing. I want that too, but the main thing is the process, right? So I think that if you're here illegally, that a case should still be brought against you. But I think that the result of that should be, a push toward naturalization rather than just sending them back, depending on length of time, obviously. So length of time should also be a factor.
Okay, next I'm gonna throw it over to Suspect Sushi.
I already said my thing.
Did you already say your thing on this one?
Yeah. Unless I was muted the whole time.
No,
Bastiat directly referenced what I said.
Well, just to be clear, I thought that I was referencing what you said for the last, your conclusion for the last one, but maybe that was your intro.
I already did my conclusion. I did mine kind of early.
No, we're opening.
This is intros to the next
to the next topic, Suspect.
Oh.
Yeah. See, I was responding to your conclusion in my intro. So
yeah, I thought I went as well.
This is the opening to the next.
Then we can skip
intro.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. Okay. Never mind then. Next, I'll just throw it over to Vadim.
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say, and this is what I was going to say real quickly before. I apologize, everyone, if I am getting impetuous and screaming into the mic. This is the second 9-person panel that I've been on, and the first one in which there have been arguments. So I get a little animated, and I'm going to try not to do that. I very much agree with what Bastiat had to say. I think simply that, we have the room right now for people. We should give them a pathway to citizenship, that is, so they can have more upward mobility in society. I think that this is a case, sometimes this saying is abused, but I do think it's a case where rising tides lift all boats. They're not a threat in terms of crime. I have plenty of data to prove that, and it's also incredibly well documented that they are just better for our economy. So I have several relevant statistics that make that pretty much inarguable as well. And other than that, I don't know if I really have anything else to say other than that. So there you go.
Hey, Irene actually has to jump, so if you want to do a quick outro before jumping.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of fun talking with, not my first mixed panel, but it was a really fun one. Usually I talk to more libertarians. This time I was talking to people that really like law and order. So, it's fun to get a sense of the diversity that's out there on the conservative side of things, and just get to know that. And I feel like, it's a, despite all the things that people say about debate, it is useful. Yeah, I'm Irene. I do debates. I do my own debate show, like I said just before. This one on Friday at 4 Eastern time. And other than that, I'm kind of a late night streamer with video games and just kind of chill vibes and a cool little community around me. So yeah, thank you everybody. Follow me on Twitch. NoCommentChick on Twitch. Same name on Twitter. I've got brand unity. I've got concept unity across platforms, so you can find me. And yeah, thank you so much, Dylan. Sorry, I accidentally double booked, so I'm coming into their panel. The next one's panel late. I'm kind of splitting the baby here, but I hate to do that.
No worries.
It's a little confusion. But yeah, thank you so much. All right,
good to meet you.
Okay, see you later. Okay. Who has it? Oh yeah, CTR. Okay, CTV. Sorry, I just got thrown off.
Cool. So Bastiat, back to your point, right, that you were talking about a minute ago. It is inherently unempathetic for you to, as a capitalist, say, why is it that you guys should just be restricting my ability to be able to hire these people and give them a job, while at the same time they don't have the right to vote and they can't participate in the system, right?
Just to be clear, is this open or?
This is the open,
okay.
Right? So it's inherently unempathetic for you to say it's okay for them to come work for me and for me to make money off of their labor, but then at the same time those people can't vote and participate in the system because they haven't been naturalized into the country in which they are occupying. Right? So, with that being said, yes, because you only care as a capitalist whether or not they can work for you and make money. You don't care if they're actually able to have a voice in the system.
Just to be clear, just to be clear, they know when they come here that they don't have the right to vote to start off, and they have made a conclusion that they are still better off. Like, the point you're making is very curious because it reminds me of the socialists out there who say all labor is exploitation and theft unless you have democracy in the workplace. And irrespective of what you feel about that, it sounds like you're saying you're being exploited if you don't have the ability to vote, rather than that these are individual human beings who have agency and have made the determination that they'd rather be able to live and work here, even if they can't vote right at the start, then they'd rather have the right to vote in whatever country they're coming from, if they indeed have that in that country, which they may not have anyway. So it's a very socialistic talking point.
Hold on. This is still my time to talk. I'll let you talk for a minute, right? Yeah. So, but at the same time, you also said that we need to have some types of checks in there to make sure that we get not criminals, not felons coming across the border. So then you would also have to concede that there needs to be ports of entry for the government to be able to check these people, right? So it is inherently unempathetic for you as a capitalist to say it's okay for them to work for me, for them to not to be able to participate in the system, and then be able to bypass the government, right, to be able to do that for you.
Well, just to be clear,
so,
just to be
do I think that the illegal immigrants or the immigrants that are inside the country, what do we need to do with them here currently? I think there needs to be a hold, and then everybody that is inside the country needs to be actually kind of start being documented inside the system, so that perhaps maybe those that qualify and are able to go through the naturalization process can then be done so. But at the same time, we need to also take a real account as to what's happening at the border so that we can stop some of the more egregious crimes that suspect Sushi and some of the other people on the panel were pointing out when it comes to human trafficking and pedophiles and sex, these things that are happening that should not be happening, right? And I think we as good moral people can get behind that idea. So that's what I feel like needs to happen as far as the people that are inside the country right now.
Just to be clear, though, like, I agree that they should have a pathway to citizenship as well. And I do, I don't know how what I'm saying is less empathetic when my position is just that I want it to be faster for them to be able to work here. And then that I also want them to eventually become citizens. Like, it seems like the only difference is your timeline is slower for them to get to do what they want to do and less assured than mine.
But then it sounds like
how could your position by default
But you would then just say at the same time that those people that want to immigrate here legally through the process should just take a back door to those people that just jumped the border, right? I'm not for giving those types of... So that's what I'm saying.
Fixed number of, like, the notion that there's a fixed number of people like who can become citizens or a fixed number of citizenships that we can give out or work permits or whatever, that's artificially limited by the government. There's no reason that we have to say, well, because you had to wait, this person has to wait. No, one injustice does not require another.
Okay, I gotta stop it here because Luxzifer has an intro and he has to do it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was
No, you guys are fine. Yeah, so I'm basically in the same camp as Bastiat here. It's like I don't see why we're conflating having an open border with having absolutely no policing at the border. I think it's perfectly reasonable to make sure that we have all of these people looked at and make sure that we have checks and balances in place. We make sure that these people aren't carrying diseases, or if they're not, they don't have criminal records, things like that. And then we make sure that we have track of them, and then they can participate in our economy. Just like any other immigrant, they're not going to become citizens right away. There's a process for that, and I think it's important. But they could still participate in our economy, and I don't see why it's unempathetic to allow them to do so.
And now it's open. It's completely open now.
But you want to abolish
I apologize
ICE.
for that, Dylan. I didn't mean.
Wait.
It's
No,
okay,
I
it's
agree
okay.
with
You're good.
Lucifer. No, I agree with Lucifer. We should have rampant open borders, but we should rapidly expand the police state. I do agree.
Absolutely. Okay.
I just had to ask. I just keep on seeing you like having these monologues while other people are talking, and I'm just wondering what's going on.
I'm responding to questions.
Oh, okay, but just so we can't hear it. All right. Sorry, I just had to ask.
Oh no, not question. Like when I'm listening, so when someone asks me a question, I respond to you in kind. But I'm saying when someone in my chat asks me a question, I answer them.
He's
Can I
streaming.
respond to Sushi since he made
okay,
an
he's
idea?
streaming.
I
Yeah,
see.
it's a Twitch thing.
Okay, well, I have a general question for everyone. Does everyone here agree with the fact that that illegal immigration in general does not increase crime? Like, are people of the impression? Is anyone here of the impression that in general it increases?
I actually
crime?
think it increases unreported crimes because illegal immigrants actually have a fear of being deported, so they're more likely to be victimized within communities.
It's true.
Okay, well, there's no data.
No, actually, no,
there
hey,
is.
no,
Yes, he's right.
Quite literally disagreed with me, so this might be.
No,
not...
can I speak on this since I disagreed with Vadim here? No, you're correct. There is unreported crime on the part of the victims who are the illegal immigrants. They're the ones who are being victimized, and they're not able to report it because they don't have protection under the law. That's true. So if we were to legalize them, we would give them protection under the law. So thank you. You're right.
I mean, you're jumping to a different avenue. But what I'm saying is like,
No, that's the argument.
no, listen. This is what I'm talking about, right? So if there's a populace of illegal citizens who are scared to be deported, and there are more prone to having crime enacted upon them, that by definition it increases crime. I just think there's a different result that we can come to. So I look, step 1, 2, and 3. I'm with you to step 2. Step 3, we disagree.
What is step 3? It seems like giving them.
We shouldn't be incentivizing illegal citizenship in the first place.
Don't you want to give them protections under the law so that there's not unreported
Yeah, but they're not
crime?
American citizens, so they're not actually protected under
So
American
you're not
law.
worried about so the argument you're making about crime, about unreported crime.
It's not a fair trade-off to give someone the right to report a crime when they're here illegally. That's like giving them the entire jet boat, and then you're like going to remove the.
That was
seatbelts?
Sushi's argument. He was the one
No.
talking about unreported crime. So I said, if you're
unreported
concerned with
crime-
unreported
Dude, like more if people know that I could break into fucking homes or something like that, or steal from people, or strong arm robbery, whatever it is, and then they're not going to fucking report it because they're scared of being deported,
yeah.
that increases crime, regardless if it's from another illegal citizen or from an American citizen. It doesn't matter.
So,
It increases crime.
just to be clear, Sushi's
David,
position is Sushi's empathetic position is they might get crime committed against them, so send them the fuck back.
No. It's not might get crime; it increases crime.
It does not increase crime, though.
Unless you're
I mean,
making the argument that
on the same
crime
token,
increases-
you can say that people are not going to commit crimes because
I wanna
of
ask this
the
question
of the
right quick.
risk involved in committing crimes. You know,
Unless your position is that-
so you're speculating that all these crimes are occurring, and I'm sure maybe some are, but there's no real data to support it. And at the end of the day, the argument that you're giving is just as much of an argument for why people would not commit crimes because they don't want to be caught by the police.
So
and
I
then
would kind of
deported.
agree. I want to see this data of how many illegal aliens are going to be increasing crime rates. But from a just generic population standpoint, if you remove 11 million or whatever amount of illegal immigrants from the population pool in low-income housing or low-income areas, the likelihood that crime rates drop is pretty high. I would think that'd be a safe assumption.
Just to be clear, your assumption
I
right
have
here
to
is that
one
crime
here.
would go down if they were all gone. But
If they
the
reduce-
economy would suffer as well considerably, very
No.
drastically.
Yes,
so like the
like
notion that
the
crime would go
MS-13
down. I mean, that doesn't
Also, we're
make
not
sense.
talking
One
about
at a
data.
time. Okay. CTR. CTV. You asked a question.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Is everybody here familiar with the activities of the gang MS-13?
Sure. Yes.
Yes, and they're
Okay.
very small, and they're not indicative of the majority of
They're not small.
undocumented.
They're all
They're
over
not. They're not. They're not
They're
really
all the
so
way in
small,
fucking
man.
New Hampshire, my guy. No,
Dude,
MS-13
and
is pretty widespread.
If they're big enough to have like 3 or 4 documentaries made after them, I mean, that at least tells you something.
That's not a good metric, my friend. Even if
agree.
I agree with you, that's not a good metric.
Are they a thing? Yes. Are they like indicative of the like typical immigrant? But by no stretch of the imagination. Like population wise, it's very small in comparison to the totality of undocumented immigrants. Like it's
Right,
it's
but you still agree
probably
that those people
way
would
less
still
than a
fall under the
percent.
same category as illegal immigrants, though, in a lot of cases, though, right?
I mean, MS-13's only one aspect.
Right, so
Yeah,
let's
like
just make sure that we're
Rosetta's-
identifying the evil that we're actually trying to prevent from getting in here to begin with. I'm trying to find something that everybody can get behind.
I mean,
right?
there are American
Here's the idea.
gangs, though.
Everybody can
Are
get
you going
behind
to
that those
deport
folks should
them
be
as well?
prosecuted for their crimes.
Yeah, of course.
That as long as by crimes you don't mean like immigrating here illegally.
But the
Like,
government
I don't
still
consent
needs a
to
way
that,
to
but-
be able to go in there and talk to these individuals and decipher whether or not they're affiliated with this particular gang or any other organization that might be actually trying to do harm against American citizens. The government needs a way to be able to do that.
Okay, so I'll agree with this point. If you're saying that nobody, but like, if your argument is that there's somebody out there saying there should be no like border checkpoints, no, I would like to have a border checkpoint. The only thing I'm saying is that I want the border checkpoint to have very little in the way of powers to say no to people. Like if they looked up and found that you were in MS-13, for example, yeah, that would be a no. But otherwise, you know, if you didn't have any links to violence, then you'd be able to get in. Or if you didn't have a contagious disease like COVID-19, although we have the problem with that right now, you wouldn't be able to get in. But otherwise, you'd be able to get in.
How do they find out if they
So
are
then you're
MS-13
actually
or
setting
not?
up some sort of detention area outside of the country then, right?
I think it would be more like a customs checkpoint, like at an airport when you fly back from Canada or whatever. But you know, it'd be
Can
something.
that small of an area handle the volume coming into the southern border, northern border?
Millions of people come to this country, like, you know, through
Right, but if we're
you know,
going to
through that
accurately
process,
and adequately screen all these people that are coming through, it's a little faster than just scanning your passport and checking your bags.
yeah, I have no.
Especially when
I
a
have
lot
no
of times
doubt
they don't
that
even have that kind of documentation.
Yeah, I have no doubt that we'd have to figure out, you know, maybe there's some kind of document you have to bring with you, but ultimately, like, the point is
But they
that
don't
if
have
you,
to follow that law as it is. So,
yeah, and the reason they don't follow that law is because it is so difficult to get in here in the first place legally. And if we made it much easier, people would follow the law the same way, the same reason that people, you know, when you make it easier, for example, to buy goods legally, engage in much less smuggling.
When you say difficult to get into the country, what do you mean exactly? Like, what kind of hurdles do you in your mind are you using for them to have to overcome?
Yeah, like existing laws that, for example, you know, say that only so many people can get in through the visa lottery, for example. I would want that number to be unlimited. You know, just as one example. Like, I'd like to get rid of all of these arbitrary constraints, no caps, nothing. Just
Okay, so say we did that. So say we numbers infinite. What other kind of hurdles do they have?
I mean, the time it takes to process stuff, I'd like to improve that
Okay,
considerably. Yeah.
The DACA is like 2 years, so I mean,
Yeah, that seems, you know, I mean, especially given that those people are already here, that seems like way too long. Like, ultimately, if the government can't prove that you are engaged in some kind of criminal enterprise,
DACA allows you amnesty up to 2 years for that process
I have a question.
to transpire.
I have a question for you, Bastiat.
Yeah.
So what makes America so unique that no other country should have the same level of immigration policy, but we should?
Yeah. Just to be clear, to the extent other counters don't want to adopt American policies, that's their problem. I don't say they should do that.
You want to adopt a unique policy that isn't replicated.
Yeah, it is a unique policy. You're right.
Guys,
it is a unique policy, but it is not unique in American history. It actually has worked in American history up until the Chinese Exclusion Act. Yeah, actually up to the level I'm talking about. Up until the Chinese Exclusion Act, we had basically no restrictions on immigration, and up until the 1910s, 1920s, we had no restrictions on European immigration.
Ellis Island was formed in 1892, dude.
Okay. Yeah, millions of people came in through Ellis Island with almost no controls other than basically disease screening.
You know, it was very light. Millions of people were able to get in. We've never matched that level of immigration before. During the Civil War, we had people coming in
No, actually on track to pass it now.
On the same dock that they got here on.
Okay, Vadim, you've been
I'd like to say something
Yeah, Vadim.
that's relevant to what was said earlier, okay? Just so everyone knows, the estimated amount of illegal immigrants is around 10.5 to 12 million. The number of MS-13 members is 8 to 10,000.
No,
so
that's actually wrong. It's 8 to 10,000 currently in America. And it's up to 50,000 worldwide.
Yeah, but we're only talking about America.
According to what?
It's literally the same Wikipedia that you're fucking.
We're talking about America. Wait, why does it matter? Well, how many of them there are
No.
worldwide?
It says 30 to 50,000 worldwide.
Criminal
Sushi.
enterprise,
Can you guys hear me? It says 30 to 50,000 worldwide. Read it closely. Yes, it absolutely says that. I'll read it to you right now. According to 2009 National Gang Threat Assessment, the gang is estimated to have 30 to 50,000 members and associate members worldwide. 8,000 to 10,000 of whom reside in the United States.
But they're not. Like we understand, like that number fluctuates based on who's coming across the border at any given time.
And let's just
we have a checkpoint.
Look,
Sushi, let Vadim finish his
That's
point.
still a drop in the bucket compared to 10.5 million. So let's stop acting like the majority of these people are like these fucking like, you know, incredibly violent gangbangers, please. Because they're not.
Though, but it's you everybody here has also conceded to the fact that there does need to be some type of immigration checkpoint, right? And committing to the debate in good faith, right? That's what I'm trying to do right now, okay? Is we all agree that there should be some kind of checkpoint to make sure that this criminal enterprise, because there's one stat that nobody can deny, and that's that every year 800,000 kids go missing in this country, right? So let's just say you only have 50,000 people inside of this country, or 8,000 people inside of this country, working with 50,000 outside of it, and we have a number of 800,000 kids going missing. How many kids need to go missing before you actually start trying to take the immigration process serious? The legislatures are the ones that need to be the ones controlling this by law.
Critical. So just, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, what is it? It's only like 400 of those 800,000 missing kids turn out to be related to criminal cases. And I think 50% of all missing child cases are resolved within, what is it, like the first day or first week of when they're first issued. So I think like the actual rate of like disappeared kids is much smaller than like the reports of missing kids, right? Like we can say that those are two different things.
So a small number means it's not.
No. I have to cut in this, okay? Because I don't even want to give credence to this nonsense correlation that hasn't been substantiated in any way. Okay, there's no reason to believe that just because there are an X number of missing kids, that this has anything to do with the number of MS-13 members in the country. You haven't substantiated that correlation in any way.
Yeah,
and I'm not interested in. I don't even want to talk about this until you actually give me some evidence that those two things are even related to one another.
Actually, I have
Can I say something though?
Sure, let's hear it.
Here's a study from the Crime Prevention Research Center.
Post the link.
I'm posting it as I'm speaking. Right, we're showing that illegal immigrants are 142% more likely to be convicted of a crime than other Arizonians, whatever. They also serve longer sentences due to those crimes and are 45% more likely to become gang members. So there's that. If you want to look at that when it comes to proclivity of causing crime within the respective areas.
Conservative take here: 100% of illegal immigrants commit crime by coming here.
True, literally true.
So I want to talk about the MS-13 thing.
What is this? What is the SSRN? What is that?
It's a repository for research papers.
So I just want to make this statement. So MS-13 is a very small, significant portion, a very small portion of immigration into the U.S. We can all agree on that, right?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
The proportion of MS-13 people coming across the border is considerably smaller than the rest of people coming across the border.
Yeah, it's like a joke. Yeah.
However, their types of crimes they commit and the affiliations they have are far more significant than the rest of the majority, right, of people coming across the border.
So you mean to say that the MS-13 members compared to any other like immigrant, whether they are legal or illegal,
are more likely to commit crime, right?
I mean, if they're active violent criminals, yeah, I probably.
So that bears the reason that we should be screening everyone that comes across the border and verifying that they are, in fact, not violent criminals, kind of like what Bastiat said. But I'm being more in the, you guys got to come through legally and not through an illegal means so we can make sure you are, in fact, not violent.
Guys, this really needs to be said. Okay. I looked up the Crime Prevention Research Center, and there are numerous places that say that this is a very suspect, research center, I guess you could say. Sorry, I'm mincing my words here, but yeah, it's very sus.
I mean,
it's
dude,
a very sus source that you're giving, dude.
I say the ACLU is suspect, dude. It's like if you want to be.
I'm not giving. I have stats. They're not from the ACLU.
No. I'm just saying, like they're like it's like, oh, is there a slight leaning? Oh, well, then the entire fucking data.
It's not a slight leaning. I mean, it's not just the fact that they're right leaning, because there are lots of right leaning centers that actually do publish the fact that there are low crime stats among immigrants, and that they're also financially like a plus for America. It's the fact that these people often give misleading or just misinformation.
MediaSbiasFactCheck.com puts them on right. So you don't agree with right sources?
Yeah, and it also says, and they have two factors by which that they look at things. They look at kind of where they are in the political spectrum, and then they also assess whether or not they give like misleading or untrue information. And it says they may utilize strong loaded wording attempts to influence an audience by using appeal to emotion or stereotypes, publish misleading reports, and omit reportings of information that may damage conservative causes. Some sources,
it literally mentions
some
three
sources in this category may be untrustworthy.
It literally mentions three out of all the work they've done. There's three sources where they said that things are false or mostly false due to like things like incorrect cited numbers and things of that nature.
I want to address Turk's point.
Three things. Okay.
So Turk's point. I don't mean to cut it short, but you guys are just kind of going back and forth. So Turk's point was. And correct me, and like let me know if I am misremembering this or mischaracterizing you. I want to be charitable. So your point was, if there's even let's say one person out of a batch of a large group of people, whatever it may be, that is the potential to be a violent criminal, whether they are MS-13 or any other type of criminal or organization, like whatever. For the sake of the metaphor, let's say like whatever that we should background check or vet or to some capacity determine that people are not criminals before they immigrate, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that because we already do that with TSA, and that's for just people traveling. We are checking everybody for, bodily weapons. We're checking for chemical traces of stuff, and that's just for transit. That's not even immigrating. So I don't see why it would be unreasonable for us to enhance our border security through checkpoints. We can debate walls and all that other crap, but I think if we're going to be properly immigrating and having a good count of people coming in and out of the country, we can't let people just skate by and get past the law, because that's not beneficial. We would love to help people if they followed the law, but if they don't do it, we can't help them.
Just to be clear, I want to say that my goal here is not especially to quote unquote help people. I don't think we need to quote unquote help people. I think we need to get out of people's way and let them help themselves.
Sure,
let them make themselves their own lives better. I don't think like allowing immigration some act of collective national charity. I think it's basically us getting our boots off the necks of these people who come here. So it doesn't have to be an issue of altruism or empathy or any of that. It just means getting out of the way of somebody rather than beating them with a club or putting them in a camp or whatever.
Suspect Sushi, Sushi, you raised your hand. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. So look, I'm just going through the media bias fact check thing. On the three sources where they say they are outright false about some things.
Yeah,
what's pretty interesting is I'm looking at it and like when
your report is wrong, and the Cato Institute. They published a paper showing how John Lott's, specifically because John Lott is the author, specifically his claims about Arizona are completely false, and that he just really botched the data. So I can send you
Anyway, like I was going
that
to,
if you
like
want.
I was saying about the media fact check thing. The issue is it literally says like for instance they said, oh, this is definitely directly false. You know what they're attributing to like the false claims? Like they're direct quotes within the data of politicians saying something. It's not actually talking about the source data that they're using or their conclusions thereof. Like the fact of the matter is, you say, oh, this is false because they put in a quote by like for instance like Rep Louis Gohmert. I don't know what the fuck it says. Basically, every time concealed carry gun laws have been allowed, the crime rate has gone down. But this is far from a settled issue in academia. If you think that someone not agreeing with like a statement that like a fucking politician says means that the entire fucking data source is like now corrupted, that's pretty fucking asinine.
So the
Luxzifer.
problem is you can't actually make that argument because you only gave us an abstract. You don't have the entire article. You have
can
no
literally
way of.
you can look at the PDF that shows their conclusions and their summary in the first
Can we?
page.
I don't mean to cut this short, but
me
can
look
we
at it
talk
again,
about
because-
something other than whether one source is legitimate or not?
Yeah,
Let's
like-
do something that everyone
just
can
out of
contribute to.
curiosity, I guess.
I won't say it again, but that source is completely off.
You're about to say it again. You're about to say it again.
No. That's all. That's
But
the
you're saying it
conclusion.
again. You said you weren't going to, but you are.
What seems most interesting to me is kind of the value side of it. Like, what conditions somebody should be able to be an American under, like whether law is more important than, I guess, I keep talking about right and wrong. I mean, that feels like the most interesting side of it, right? Like the policy side of it, rather than just like the, I'll grant you, maybe there's something about Arizona that is just unique, although I doubt it. And then, we've got that research that shows that nationally immigration, immigrants, illegal and legal, have lower crime rates. Maybe it's possible both of those are true, maybe not. I mean, I guess folks can decide and look at the sources for themselves, but I don't know. I guess I wouldn't want to spend my mind on that.
I want to say quickly. Geek's gonna mod for me for a second. I need to step away. Okay, I'll be right back.
I'm curious, Sushi. Do I have to
so
sign
I
up
just
for
wanna-
this? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, appreciate it. I just wanted to answer to Turk's point before what we were just talking about. I tend to be a little bit of a libertarian when it comes to these issues, and I wonder, just kind of like puzzling out as like a thought experiment, what is cheaper? Is it cheaper and more like efficient and cost effective for us to have a more responsive police force that's in the country that's like has a shorter response time than like 13 minutes, so if a crime is committed that they can be mobilized quickly and respond to these threats? Or does it make more sense for us to just check everyone at the border? Because my gut feeling is telling me that it's much more expensive to check people at the border than it is to shave a couple minutes off a response time.
So, I could argue either way. The problem is once they're in, it's a local state issue, right? And locals and states can choose to enforce and act whatever laws they want, right? I've got data that shows that state and local governments really face the brunt of illegal immigration, for the positive or the negative. If we're going to abolish the border, we need to drastically fund and increase the presence of institutes like ICE. You guys don't like it, but we need someone to enforce the law. We can't just say, oh, come on in. We don't have a way to check if you're good or not.
Well, we already have
Turk, can I
CBP.
ask
Why
a
do we
question?
need ICE? Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I agree.
I wanted Turk just to elaborate. You said that you said something that sounded like states are basically penalized as a result of having immigration, and what that isn't the word that you used.
Yeah, so I posted the link earlier in the Discord. It's from CBO, Congressional Budget Office, spending by state and local governments. It breaks it out by education, healthcare. There's other bullet points and like topics of stuff, law enforcement. I have it written down. I just don't have my Mac open, but it's illegal immigration has a net negative budgetary impact towards local and state governments, even with financing from the federal agencies. This is from the Congressional Budget Office.
So I got a question for Bastiat whenever we're
okay.
So here's my question, man. I think we've kind of identified tonight that there is some evil in the world and that we need to try to protect our own citizens from that evil, whatever it may be, as a broadly speaking, right? So then at the same time, there needs to be some type of process, and that process is immigration, right? So the question that I have is let's just say that our legislatures were actually going to have a bill proposed, in the House and in the Senate, and then go on to be signed by the executive. And that piece of legislation said that everybody that's inside the country now, right, you have X amount of time to come register with the federal government, because the federal government is the one responsible for naturalization, right? And that through this process, over the next however many years it takes, we are going to be processing these types of things. However, at the exact same moment in time, anybody that comes into the country that is not going through the process, right, the actual process to become a legal citizen, and us as a government being able to check these people, would you be willing to sign on board with that type of legislation?
Well, let me say two things. One, if this compromise, this hypothetical compromise, would result in more people being able to, I guess, like more freedom, right? I think it probably would, because our alternative would be the status quo. I might be down with that compromise. I'd have to think about it. But like, even though I'm here presenting myself as all open borders all the time, that's my goal. But I would certainly be willing to accept compromises on the way there personally.
Hey, Vadim.
But I will say that I guess I don't really, I want to address, I guess, the point about like evil in the world. It is my fundamental assumption, and I've never seen anything that really countermands this, that there is no more evil outside of the borders of the United States among the average person than there is inside of the borders of the United States among the average person. I think that the average American is just as likely to do quote unquote evil as the average person from another country. I think we are chiefly molded by other circumstances than just kind of the luck of our nationality of birth. So I'm not really, that's
But
that's
at
where
least
I'm
the
coming
people
at
that
this.
are here, at least the people that are here in this country, though, have that common nationality, and
Yeah.
anybody that's coming from somewhere else doesn't have that in common,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
the
that's
thing,
where-
actually, though. Like Pew has done some research on this that I'll link after this, where they found that actually immigrants are very, by and large, very patriotic, which makes sense given that they've chosen to become Americans as opposed to people who are just born here and take it for granted. So, like, I don't really know that this notion that, we're all born here, therefore we share the same values, I don't really know that bears out. I mean, I feel like there's got to be something to the fact that these people are choosing to become Americans rather than just born into it.
I'm with you on that, man. There's a whole lot of people running around that don't understand respect for a lot of different things that actually would be a part of American culture. So I'm definitely with you on that, right? So, but the thing is that I think at the root core of all this is there needs to be a piece of legislation where there's some actual real talking as to how to actually solve this problem, instead of just allowing the executive to continue to kick the can down the road, or then because one executive kicked it down the road, now this one's actually going to enforce the law as it was actually when it was kicked down the road before. You know what I mean?
I do agree with your broad point that, like, yeah, that would be the best thing, would be to address this. Like, I will acknowledge that while I think that it is more important, like, I don't want to write off the notion that, like, unjust laws invite being broken. I do recognize your point that, like, ideally nobody breaks the law, because that does erode some of the respect for the law. I think having unjust laws also does that, and I think it does it more so. But I get your point. Like, that would be ideal to have Congress handle this stuff. I just am not willing to say, okay, for all of you, though, outside of the country right now, put your dreams and lives on hold until we figure out what the hell we're doing. I don't think that's fair.
I think sometimes that's exactly what might need to happen, though. Otherwise, you just perpetuate a broken system. You know what I mean?
I want to respond to the.
I mean, we did stop everything for COVID, did we not?
Yeah, but I think
give it a rest, brother.
That's a pretty
People aren't
that's
fired.
a big one-off, right? I mean,
okay,
hopefully we're not having that all the
You
time.
can't just let something
We
stand.
shouldn't be talking about COVID in this discussion.
That was just an instance where we shut down the borders and we're trying to figure our shit out,
Sure.
right? So,
Like, so if you
that's the
said,
most
for
recent example.
Yes, if you said temporarily, for example, okay, Bastiat, I'm down with your open borders future, but not right now because we've got this international global pandemic. Like in Europe, in the European Union, they have basically open borders with their Schengen area. They've closed that as far as I know. Maybe they're opening it back up, but they closed it at least earlier on because they wanted to close stop the pandemic. I get that. Temporary emergencies require temporary, addresses. I just don't think that, we should say, okay, we're pausing it indefinitely, because we got to figure out what the hell's going on. I would want it to be very narrowly tailored.
So you know what, man? For these people that are getting paid $174,000 a year, they should be forced to go into Congress and fix this fucking immigration issue, man, because it's ridiculous. I'm with you.
The one thing I disagree with, that I guess I disagree that Congress is just avoiding the will of the people. I think there are just a lot of people who really don't like who I think there's this nexus of people who like are happy with a system where these workers don't have as many rights as they would if they were legal, and people who are like, I don't want them in the country. And I think this is kind of an unholy, unwilling alliance of sorts to preserve the status quo, where I would like to, I'd like to have it all above the table. I don't know though. I think Congress generally does reflect popular will rather than like work against it.
Suspect has been waiting for a long time, so I really want to throw it over to
Just
Suspect.
to fact check your fact check. I was reading the Cato Institute during the time. Do you understand? Like, I find it.
Oh my god!
Breakfast, you came in late, dude. Like, your contribution is insignificant at this point. Anyway, so like
Cough,
the Cato
don't say
Institute,
that.
I find it. I'm just saying.
Cool,
Like,
not toxic at all.
I mean, no, right in the middle of someone talking. Oh my god, give it a rest, please. That's not toxic.
Dude, you've been talking about this same source for a half hour.
Contribute to the
it's
conversation instead of just yelling at your microphone, dude. Come on.
Who?
You.
Both of you, really.
Well, it's probably my volume. I'm actually not trying to yell at all. Anyway, so like the issue here is the fact that like the Cato Institute, which is like sourced as like a right-leaning website, which is kind of interesting considering the fact that like the matter is the biggest contention they have with John Lott's like source data is the fact that he looked at like when he looked at the arrest and it said citizen or non-citizen, like they say that people who are in violation of their U.S. visas or things of that nature are not considered illegal immigrants, which is a widely contentious claim to make, and then that kind of just colors their entire fucking quote unquote fact check of the data in the first place. So like,
okay,
once again, it just shows that biases are there, even with Cato Institute, where he said that it quote unquote refutes John Lott's claims.
All right, I mean, like I thought we were past this, so I don't know
do you
what
know how
I did.
long I had to wait between
I
Bastiat
don't
and
know
CTV?
what.
I was waiting to fucking say that for a long time. It's just Bastiat and CTV were talking.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm fine with. I'm just saying that I can't like I don't. It took me a while to find it. I don't want to like dig that up again and like continue that conversation. I still hold to the fact that it seemed pretty suspect to me, but that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah.
So I had a question for CTV or maybe anyone on the panel. I was thinking about this the other day, and I think like what it comes down to for most people with immigration, maybe I'm wrong, but is that we want like the same thing that a lot of companies look for, right? Like we want a culture fit. Like we want people to come to the United States who like care about the United States and they care about being a citizen and all this other good civic stuff that we talk about. And like, I think to myself, it kind of dawned on me that illegally crossing into the United States, right? Just like crossing the border through like the Sonoran Desert or whatever is like extremely like a difficult and arduous task. It's like a pilgrimage, right? It's like going to the Hajj. And one of the things it makes me think of is people going on a pilgrimage to come to the United States because they want to be a part of the United States. And then all of a sudden, when I put that in comparison with the majority of people who do actually illegally immigrate to the country, who just overstay a visa after they flew in, what it seems to me is that if we're dealing with two different types of illegal immigrants, right? If we're dealing with one type who overstays a visa after just flying in, another one who goes on like a hundreds of miles trek to do this, to make this happen, one of the things that I can't help but think of is like that seems much more American to me than the majority of people who just overstay their visas. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Well, the only point of contention that I would have with that would be is that they need to go through the naturalization process and learn the most common language in the country, which is English, right? Because that way they can read the Constitution for themselves because it's written in English, right? There's no getting away from that fact. So that's why there has to be a naturalization process.
If people want to,
and there has to be a way for the government to be able to control that at the same time. You just can't have it completely open where anybody that just wants to pour in here can.
Yeah, can I ask a question of my fellow lefties, actually? Because it seems like me and Bastiat already agree on this, but I'm not sure if Vadim and Breakfast Detective do. Do you guys agree that we should have some sort of port of entry where we can actually keep track of the people that are coming into the country and analyze whether or not they have a criminal history or anything like that? Is this something that you guys are in agreement with? Then afterwards, we like speed up the process of citizenship, or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, ideally, yes, I'm fine with the fact that people come through illegally because they, probably like I think the chances of being accepted as a naturalized citizen are low. But ideally, if their chances were better and all of that, yes, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, so the reason why, actually, Breakfast, I wanted you to respond as well, because it sort of reinforces my argument. It's just like...
Philosophically, no. Like, if you were to ask me what, like, ideal world do I want to live in, like, no, I don't think we should have, like, border checkpoints or checkpoints of any reason or even borders. But if you're asking me about, like, the world we do live in, then, like, I think for the proper distribution of resources and services, like, it's kind of a necessary evil. Like, we have to do it. Like, we may not like it, but, like, what else are we supposed to do?
Just to kind of...
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to elaborate on that point. Just to be clear, I am not against borders in the sense that I acknowledge that they are, like, our border, for example, with with a different country also does decide, like, for example, our border with Canada is where America's almost unparalleled freedom of speech basically starts and ends, right? Like in Canada, they have reduced freedom of speech. So, like, that border, irrespective of how easily you can cross it, like that, you have certain rights on one side and on the other. Canadians have a different healthcare system on the other side too.
Yes.
So, like, those borders really mean something, right? But I don't think they should be a restriction on just you being able to cross. Like, I don't think the ability to cross those borders invalidates them. It just, I think, puts them in, I think, a more natural state of saying, well, this is what this kind of society is like. This is what that other kind of society is like. But you can nevertheless cross freely.
So the reason why I said that, the reason why I asked this is because it seems as though a lot of the arguments that are being made on the right rest on the notion that the border becomes something like a crosswalk, where it's very, very easy to go across it, and nobody has any sort of, like, there's no checks and balances. Nobody has any way of determining who's coming across. We have no way of keeping track of these people. It seems as though a lot of your arguments rest on that notion. So as long as we can agree that we're going to keep track of these people and that they're going to pay taxes in our country and that we're going to check them ahead of time to make sure that they don't have a criminal history and things like that, have any problems with expediting the path to citizenship or allowing them to participate in our economy or anything like that?
I'm pretty
As
sure
long as they
everybody's
go
already
through the
said that they
same
were for that.
naturalization process that every other immigrant that would come into the country through legal means goes through.
Okay, so
you
you
can't
and
have
Summit...
a fast track system just so they can contribute to the economy, right? We need a system in place for naturalization of these people to be able to participate in the system that they are joining. You can't just say it's okay to work, but you can't vote, right? They have to be naturalized into the system.
You do that already with all sorts of immigration. Like, there's a process by which you become a citizen. You don't just come into this country as an immigrant.
It's called naturalization.
Yeah, but you can still participate in the economy before you become a citizen in that process.
And that's called getting a green card, and you're already in the process of doing things. The problem with Bastiat is saying is once you're here, you should have free range and access to things. And that's not the way it works. There's legal laws you have to go and do. And that's where the crux of all of the debate is.
And Breakfast, I would almost argue that if you're subverting the systems in place currently, that I wouldn't say that's American. I would say that's a red flag.
But I mean, like, when we talk about subverting the system, like, illegally crossing the border, like, by land is a misdemeanor. So it's the same thing as, like, not driving with a seatbelt. No, but I think about this, like, if you got like a ticket for a seatbelt, like, I wouldn't accuse you of, like, subverting the law. I'd say, like, you forgot to put your seatbelt up. Here's your seatbelt.
Well, let's be clear. Is a seatbelt an arrestable offense?
Okay, one at a time.
So crossing the border is a federal misdemeanor under one of the codes. We agreed upon it at the beginning of the conversation. Yes, there are dictated punishments that go with that. The second one gets another elevated issue, and then on the third one, another elevated issue. But the problem is where the law is not being enforced adequately across the board. We've got states that aren't wanting to execute, counties that aren't wanting to prosecute and talk to ICE. The problem is the law is defined. We need to either change the law or execute the law. And that is up to us to either vote it in or get the president to do what's right.
I don't know, Turk. I mean, like, I understand, like, the point that you're getting at, but I think, like, a big part of the law is, like, the judiciousness in which it can be applied. That's why we have judges, right? They have the ability to, like, mete out a sentence that they feel like is specific. So I think if we were to eliminate the human factor of our judicial system, I don't think that would necessarily just do more good than it would harm. I mean, I don't know, but I don't really want to live under, like, an AI judge. You know what I mean? Not personally.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, that kind of is a different subject, but that maybe would be better. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, it could be, but
The only way something like that would work is if
everyone that was coming across the border was documented.
Okay, here's a proposal, okay? I think the most unbiased individuals who make the best decisions are panel hosts, so I think they should actually be the people who decide who get to stay and who get to go. How about that?
Oh, yes.
Hell yeah.
Thought panel host didn't get to weigh in. Where were you on foreign policy?
He's just
when we
wanting the
discussed
Twitch
that?
Prime subs.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oof, I think
Any
I'm
gifters in the
actually.
chat?
It looks like we're actually coming to a natural end here, and I am unbelievably tired, and I have no idea why. I feel like I'm about to pass out in my chair.
Are we not doing the bonus question?
Exactly.
No, bonus question is if we all agree on a single topic, then we would slide into the bonus question, basically.
For
that's
instance,
bad.
is like CCT bad?
Like I was completely avoiding the bonus question, which I think is very pertinent to the conversation.
You got
because
12
of the
minutes
fact
left
that
if
I
you
thought
want to
that we
tackle
were-
it. You got 12 minutes left.
What's that?
You got 12 minutes if you want to take a swing
Well,
at
actually,
it.
we have 3 minutes, right? Because we all have to have an opening statement. Of
Oh,
1
okay.
minute.
Yeah, and an end statement. So
I
yeah,
think we can
forgot.
all agree
That's
that we
a
can.
bummer. I would have been.
What is the bonus question?
Stats. I don't
I didn't
know.
see
But
it.
The economic.
It is what it is.
The bonus question was about if immigrants are an economic gain or like negative for society, basically.
Oh, I
Kind
guess
of
the,
covered all those bases all the way
yeah,
around,
we
didn't we?
pretty much talked
Yeah,
about that,
we
right?
kind of went through it.
Yeah, I know, but there's some pretty compelling stats that I would have shared. It's
hear 'em.
I
We
didn't
got 3
realize
minutes,
how
right?
the
Let's
format
hear 'em.
works.
Yeah.
You got 3 minutes. Do a quick crash course.
Do it.
Well, I did mention that for every one job that a undocumented person takes, they create 1.2 local jobs for local workers, and most of them going to most of them going to native workers. Research shows that average American wages rise due to immigration, both short term and long term. What else? See, I didn't have a good chance to look this over. While some policymakers have blamed immigration for slowing U.S. wage growth since the 1970s, most academic research finds little long-run effect on Americans' wages. If I had time to look this over, I would have been able to cull this information better. So I'm just, you know what? I have so much that I like. Really, it's hard to throw this into a nutshell. I'm just kind of looking over a very large amount of information and just grabbing random
Vadim, what
things.
I would
So,
suggest
it's Vadim,
checking
but
out
what?
I would suggest checking out the link I also provided from the Congressional Budget Office. It talks about economic impact of illegal immigrants, and that might be a good counterpoint for you to look at.
Sure. I mean, what I was, just so you know, what I was stating comes from a number of different sources. The American Immigration Council, the University of Pennsylvania did a meta-analysis of tons of different studies and came to the conclusion that I said about wage growth since the 1970s. So since that's a meta-analysis, that incorporates tons of different papers. So I'm pretty confident in saying that it is, but I will take a look at what you provided. That I will do. But I'm just saying that there's a robust amount of information from a whole myriad of countries that talk about the economic gains of immigration.
Also, the economic gains, it's probably not unilateral good, unilateral bad. There's probably areas where it costs more, like in places like healthcare, for instance, like if somebody doesn't have insurance and they just have to go to the hospital or whatever, probably costs more. But then in places like this place, a couple buddies of mine and I are buying a property on. Most of the people who work the land surrounding it are illegal undocumented workers who make like $2 to $3 an hour, right? So for the person who hires them, like it's a net benefit. How do I know that? I've talked to them. Yeah. That's what they tell me. They say I hire mostly undocumented people. He doesn't use that language, but he's like, I could pay him $3 an hour, so why wouldn't I?
ICE
so
is totally
to bring it-
pinging in on his IP address, finding out where he's at, and then they're going to do an immediate search around the area. Thanks for
FBI, it's this one right here.
It's also important to note, though, if we're talking about economics, that there is always going to be a short-term cost of things like immigration. We rely on the short-term cost as an investment for long-term gains. So, like, unless we're doing an analysis over the course of like several decades or even like generations, we can't really adequately determine the value that we can generate from an immigrant. And based on like the larger studies that I've seen that do follow these things over the course of several generations, it seems as though it's overwhelmingly net benefit. Right, but I guess I'd have to like cite those for you. I think I did cite one, but I'll be happy to cite
So Lux, I'd ask you to cite that reference. You know.
Yeah, so there is one in the group thing, the Discord, but it's kind of like been drowned out.
And I would like to go full circle. It's like if we think the DACA and the Dreamers are worth the investment and the process of getting these guys on a track to citizenship, you know, let's start funding that. Let's get Congress to actually start writing laws to get these kids, not their parents, not anybody else. Let's start, if you guys are so hyped on these DACA kids providing economic benefit for the country, let's put money where our mouth is. Let's start doing it. Let's start putting it. Let's, you know, instead of having wrong stats, let's start acting.
Is your argument that, wait, just to be clear, because you've said this a couple of times, is your point that I guess after these kids are 18, their parents get out? Or like
No,
their parents get out sooner? Or like what exactly are you?
I don't want to talk about the
parents. How do we keep the kids here if their parents aren't here?
I don't want to talk about the parents.
We have to talk about the parents because they're kids, right? I mean,
so I stated this before we left the first comment. I think if we were truly wanting to keep these kids here, we would find a way to either have a government facility house these people, or have people in the bottom of their good hearts house them until they are able to get out of the DACA program.
Why would we do that instead of let them stay with their parents like all
Because their
children
parents
prefer
are
to
here
do?
illegally,
So-
and they need to go through the illegal process.
So the sanctity of the law is more important than the sanctity of human.
If you're going to continue the American project, yes, we are a nation
No,
of
that is
laws.
not the American project. The American project, the systems are built for
these-
men, not men for systems.
And these are not all children. A lot of them are in college. A lot of them have gone on to the workforce. So, you know, a lot of them are are homeowners. So you're going
children are homeowners?
So they need to
not
go
all
through
of
the
them are
process of
children.
becoming
Okay,
national.
okay, everybody. I'm too tired to yell. So let's do outros. Oof. Okay, I'm gonna start off with Summit City. This is your outro. You can finish your argument for this topic and say who you are, what you do.
SummitCityAlt don't really have any answers on how to fix the situation per se. I've got some areas that I lean in that seem like steps in the right directions, which I've stated here. I mean, take it what you will. Variety streamer, stream occasionally. As of right now, if I find myself kind of dipping through panels, go ahead and check me out. Come hang out, do the thing.
Okay, next is going to be Breakfast Detective.
Hey, thanks for having me on for such a short period of time. It was awesome being able to talk to everyone, meet everyone here. Thank you, Dylan, for hosting. If there's any like Prime subs in the chat, or you feel like gifting your favorite chatter, is the perfect time to do it. Dylan's still got some oohs coming in here, so you know you want it. I'm Breakfast Detective. I'm a 2-bit politics streamer, 10 viewer Andy. If you want to be part of my 10 viewer breakfast club, follow me on twitch.tv/breakfastdetective. You want to see me retweet other people's good takes, follow me on Twitter at breakfastdetect, or just like come out for the memes, creams, and political commentary.
I always appreciate a few Twitch Primes. No matter how tired I am, it'll wake me straight up. Bastiat.
Okay, right on. I appreciate you having me here, Dylan. I really enjoyed this discussion. This was a good one. You know, I guess to me, America represents something universal in the human spirit. You know, I once read a letter not too long ago from a man who said, "You can go to Japan to live, but you can't become Japanese. You can go to France to live and not become a Frenchman. You can go to live in Germany or Turkey, and you won't become a German or a Turk."
But the letter continues, anyone from any corner of the world can come to America, live, and become an American. And this, I believe, is one of the most important sources of our country's greatness. We lead the world because unique among nations, at least almost unique, we draw our people, our strength from every country, every corner of the world, thanks to each wave of new arrivals in this land of opportunity. We're a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier. That was Ronald Reagan, President Reagan saying this, the man who signed the amnesty of 3.5 million legal immigrants. And folks, if you're a conservative and you've got a better opinion on immigration than Ronald Reagan, Mr. Conservative himself, I'd like to see it. Free movement of people has made this country great and will continue to do so if only we will get out of the way and let people make decisions for themselves. So that's the way I feel about it. Open the borders and let everybody in, unless they're violent criminals or have a contagious disease. Free markets, free trade, and free movement of goods and people makes this country great.
Next is going to be Suspect.
All right, definitely Reagan was talking about legal immigration, by the way, but that's fine. First, Breakfast Detective. You know what? That was a little too visceral reaction for me, buddy. I've been used to being the polite person who doesn't yell over people, stuff like that, but I've been getting increasingly more aggressive with how I respond to people on the left, and I apologize for that. Outside of the one abortion thing from way back, you've always engaged me in good faith, so I take that back. I apologize. Also, your mustache is way thinner than it used to be, and I'm not as attracted to you as I used to be, so there's that. So pump that game back up. When it comes to this, I basically said all I wanted to say. Legal immigration good, illegal immigration bad. That's basically it. Also support ICE, support law enforcement, and support the military. That's basically it. Also, Suspect Sushi, if you want the best conservative right-leaning takes whatsoever, and if you want to join Swole Team 6 because the liberals don't have good arms.
Luxzifer?
I don't know how I can top that, but I'm pretty much going to hold all of my positions. I like the idea of immigration. I like the idea of people getting access to this economy. I think the prosperity of this country largely comes from the diversity that comes within this country. I think the idea of having multiple cultures come into this country and integrate is a really valuable thing. I think making sure that children are taken care of is probably really valuable, and giving them access and protections under the law is really important. And I like the idea of economic prosperity as well. So.
Okay, next is going to be TheTerk.
You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted, bro.
You're muted.
Sorry,
Turk.
wrong mic again. I don't usually talk politics. I do science and tech here on Twitch at TheTerk. I post on YouTube as well. I will say, though, that we've got to start having constructive conversations with one another, and we do need to do this thing that's called coming to an agreement, compromising. We can't be toxic towards one another. We do actually need to solve these problems. Throughout the night, I've said, let's get these people that are here illegally documented and get them on a path. I'm not, saying ban them all out, but they do need to be held accountable. We are a nation of laws as much as other people disagree. If we can't adhere to laws, we become anarchists. We're seeing it in the news. Be open-minded, and don't just be shut down because someone disagrees with you.
Okay, next is going to be CTV.
Let's see, I'm Critically Thinking Veteran. Been getting on Twitch for the last couple of weeks. Been dipping my toe in the whole politics side of things. I think that we've done a good job of not only yelling at each other, but I think at some point actually getting to some type of consensus. I think the consensus has been that we can all pretty much admire the fighting spirit of those who would be willing to trek their way on foot, halfway around the world in order to get here. However, once they get here, I think that given the nature of the world itself, that we have also agreed that there needs to be some type of check for them to come into the border, right? And that goes through the naturalization process. It's spelled out in our Constitution, which makes us the most outstanding republic that has ever existed, right? So with all that in mind, and having complete empathy towards these people that want to join the system, the responsibility lays with us as the people to get our representatives in the Congress and in the Senate to actually do their jobs. So if you really want to see real change, you need to be calling your congressman and your senator and actually getting involved in the process. So, but if you want, whenever I'm online, I really don't even have a structure at this point. whoever pops in, we just kind of go talk whatever they want to talk about, or I could just be playing a game of Risk. So it just kind of depends on what's going on.
Okay, and last but not least is going to be Vadim.
I don't know how workable just saying like, I mean, I in theory, I agree. Yes. Calling your representatives and trying to get active, all of that is something that we should do. Yet at the same time, sometimes just the wrong people get elected and shitty laws are established, and Trump's like executive orders go into that. I guess at the end of the day, I'm saying that I just don't think it's as simple as like I'm looking at things more from like, what is the ideal? What is the policies that would fiscally be the best for the country and allow the most prosperity for people in general? And I guess the last thing I'll say is that, we need to consider, or rather, I think that the question that we need to consider is, are these people paying their fair share of taxes? Unbeknownst to most people, a lot of the majority of undocumented citizens do pay taxes. And are they receiving benefits as a result? They receive very little benefits. Really, the only thing that they get is maybe emergency medical care. And, we happen to be discussing folks that work for very low wages and receive nearly no social services whatsoever. So you really have to bend over backwards, in my opinion, to assert that they're exploiting us. I just don't believe that they are. And I think that, I believe America is about kind of compassion. And I think that as a result, we can be more compassionate with our system. Let more people in, let more people immigrate, and not put up these barriers that keep them from doing so, and make them enter the country in these ways that all of us agree are pretty shitty for those who are, enduring that. So, I guess that's all I have to say.
I'm thankful for everybody coming on today.
Wait. Can I just one last thing? Just
What?
if anybody cares, I'm if you want to look me up, I'm Creationist Cat on YouTube. Although that's soon to be changed to HeyItsVadim. And if you're familiar with the channel, Creationist Cat still will be on the channel, but it will be more of me eventually and a little less CC. So I forgot to do some sort of plug. So there you go.
I'm so completely confused about how that last line. So you're like somebody else, and then now you're. Is it like a role play thing?
The channel needs to be experienced. Creationist Cat was zapped by God through the internet, and he's a talking cat. Some people think that I actually happen to be him, although I'm just really his human slave. Watch the channel. And
so it's just more of a role play thing. I mean, that's all I'm asking.
Is it like a furry thing, or?
Okay.
Yeah, it's on.
I mean, I wasn't going there. I was just saying role play in general.
On YouTube. We there's an entertaining video on the quartering, if you're familiar with that oaf. That's the last video that we did, or no? We did a video on the death of Michael Brooks, but that's really out of character for the channel. That one was more serious. It's mostly, like I said, left-wing comedy through like a sort of Adult Swim.
I don't understand what's hard to what's hard to understand
comedy?
here. It's just a talking
left
cat.
wing.
It's your everyday thing. What's wrong? Does nobody get it?
Please stop saying ooh. Oh my god, guys. This is
Okay, we're done. We're done. Okay. Thanks everybody for stopping
All right,
by.
I'll see y'all later. Have an excellent night, everyone.
Hey, this is Dylan. I just want to let you know you can find my content live at twitch.tv/DylanBurnsTV. You can also find my link to my Twitter and Discord in the description. I hope you continue to give me support, and I appreciate you for watching my videos.